That's tomorrow. And that is it for us today. Yeah, I can't read it. There's no words on it. There's no words there. To play us out. What does that mean? To play us out. What is? I don't know what that means. To play us out. What does that mean?
That we like to cover on We'll Do It Live is PSYOPs, right? We're always talking about PSYOPs, the media PSYOPs, the government PSYOPs, all the different things that are going on. But did you know that there are truther PSYOPs as well? Yes, indeed. I'm sure many of you out there are quite familiar with it. And, you know, it's something that everyone that isn't aware needs to be made aware of, that there is a reality that movements get infiltrated. You know, discussions are created. There's a sort of narrative that'll be pushed, or different narratives that'll be pushed. People being pushed into discussing things that perhaps they shouldn't even give a second thought to, or perhaps they should just apply some simple science and mathematics to that would explain it very quickly. But yes, these PSYOPs do indeed occur, and we have to be aware of them. Now, as somebody who's been in this movement for quite some time, you know, a researcher, a vlogger, I guess you could call me, making videos, one of the things that has always been a strength of mine is seeing the patterns that emerge. You know, I give examples like, say, for instance, the Ebola green, right? That's one of the things I'm really well known for, is seeing how they use the color green to push the whole Ebola saga. The purple parachuting hoax, the Sandy Hook symbols, all these different things. It's always been something I've been very strong at doing, putting together puzzles, seeing patterns, and things like that. So when I look at the truth movement, which has gone through an extremely rocky road, especially over the last 6 months, 8 months, I guess you could say, since the Trans-Asia debacle, which was quite quite a yarn and a half in itself. I started to see a lot of patterns emerging, and watching a lot of the people that were targeting me, that were attacking those that were correctly calling the Trans-Asia event a real event, that there was no evidence whatsoever to support that that event was fake. Of course, I was attacked. Hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of videos were made about me. So I had to pay a heavy price for all that, but I started seeing a lot of patterns, and one of the patterns that I started to see right around that time was the flat Earth meme. And, you know, it's something that has been around, well, I mean, it's been around forever, I guess you could say, as long as humans have had the ability to, you know, imagine the world and think about the world. You know, they have looked up at the night sky, the daytime sky, looked around them, and tried to understand what the Earth is. And that's why throughout history we've had tens of thousands of different religions, maybe hundreds of thousands, you know, all different sort of ideas and beliefs. And over time, you know, things start to make sense. People start to get more intelligent. A science emerges, essentially, right? That is what we are today. When we look at the night sky, we look at the sun, or the giant flashlight, as flat earthers like to refer to it. We would look at these planets and try to come up with what they were, what was their purpose, and what we would see over time. Obviously, it wouldn't take too long. Is some of the stars would move, they would twinkle. The stars that seemed to move turned out to be planets, and eventually they became named, and their elliptical sort of orbits would be mapped out. And those that would collect this knowledge throughout history would have, if they were keeping it from others, would have the ability to predict celestial sort of events, like eclipses and stuff like that. So if you knew, for instance, if you were Mayan or something like that, you knew that there was going to be a solar eclipse, well, and the rest of the people that you ruled didn't know that, you could use that to your advantage. So with all this sort of speculation came up with, there's all these different gods and religions that sprouted up because of the constellations, right? Astrology, things like that came out. Eventually all that stuff, you start to, through the process of elimination, we had scientific revolutions that occurred, right? We start to use what we call science to explain why certain things happen, like, for instance, earthquakes, right? We know that earthquakes happen because of the, continental shifts, right? The Ring of Fire, things like that, right? We know, we start to apply science to give us the answers that we need to understand the solar system and the universe that we inhabit. And I think one of the trends that has occurred within the sort of truther movement has been this notion to completely distrust science, to throw science completely out of the window, to think that everything that we have been taught is fake, all the major events that have shaped the world as we know it have all been scripted, and that we are really living in some sort of flat earth bubble sort of thing, a dome, or wherever you will. There's a lot of different sort of theories on that. What those theories offer is not science. They reject science. They try to appeal to the ignorance, and I want to put this, carefully, because I don't want to suggest that people that believe in flat Earth are ignorant, and I also want to make it clear that we're not here to target people and their beliefs. But we believe, at least I believe, I know some of the people in this podcast also share this belief, that there is an operation, and that operation is to make people distrust everything, to make people think that everything is fake, that, things that have happened, Civil War, World War II, things like that, are all just fiction that have been created in order to control our minds. We have a thing called science that has advanced the world to the point now where we have computers in our watches, right? We have laptop or portable, tablets that are infinitely more powerful than computers that existed, say, even just 10 years ago. We have airplanes, submarines, elevators. We have buildings that go up hundreds of stories. We have just really exploded technologically as a species, especially since the 19th century. We have to understand that you cannot throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just because some events are staged and used to manipulate you does not mean that everything that you have been taught is staged. When it comes to science, there is a process that is observable, and that is the whole method of science. That's why we put so much faith in it. If you hate science and reject science, then I suggest you turn off your computer right now, throw out your refrigerator, don't ever use a car, and go live in the woods. Do everything by yourself.
If I may interject now and sort of end the soliloquy here, because and let me start my sort of testimony as to why I believe it's important to speak out against this. Now, science and logic and reason is what brought me into the truth movement. Looking at 9/11, falling, the Twin Towers falling at free fall speed, which is impossible according to physics, and so is flat Earth. So I think it goes against everything that the truth movement stands for. It stands for truth, not this philosophy that we have to go against everything we've been taught, go against all, just because there's certain scientific PSYOPs, that doesn't mean all of science, all of logic is a hoax. It's a completely, quite frankly, delusional way of perceiving the world. Not that, and here's the thing, a lot of these flat earthers and a lot of the theories are well thought out and they're not stupid people. Some of the people who believe this are not stupid, and I want to make it clear too that I don't think everybody who pushes flat Earth is a shill, but I do think in the background there is an operation to push this, and it's pretty obvious once you look at the sort of connections when it comes to the flat Earth PSYOP and how it connects to a lot of different things going on right now. And I think they've been planning to push this for a very long time, the New World Order, that is. They've been planning to strike when the time was right to push this PSYOP because they knew this truth revolution was coming. They knew the distrust or mistrust in authority in traditional thinking was on the horizon. So this was planned out as a PSYOP to discourse it, so to speak.
Yes.
So I think this was planned out for a long time.
Yes, absolutely. I think that there is legitimate people that believe the Earth is flat, and they do have their reasons. As you said, a lot of these people are not stupid. There's a lot of things about the flat Earth, idea that do make common sense, right? And a lot of it is just because of how limited we are dealing with our perspective. But really, to throw out science, all science, everything that has got us to this point is a real problem, and I think that's one of the PSYOPs that's happening right now. They want us to believe that everything is fake, that nothing is real, that we can't trust any of our history, that we can't trust any of our science, throw Newtonian physics out of the window, Einstein, everything like that.
I believe it's a PSYOP within a PSYOP, Jeff, actually. I think it's, on one hand, an attack on the whole truther movement itself. And I believe the Flat Earth PSYOP is basically a UN agenda to back their whole man-made climate change.
Well, that would be part of it. Now, I just want to go through and introduce everyone before we get into all the arguments dealing with Flat Earth. And we want to be able to take each one of these arguments one by one and really try to provide a very scientific, reasonable explanation for them. So, without any further ado, I will go from right to left here from my own dial here. First and foremost, well, not foremost, but definitely one of the top guys here, the Auto Expositor, Justin. How are you doing, buddy?
Not doing too bad. How about you?
Oh, hanging in there, buddy. Now we have a special guest here, an astronomer by the name of, some of you might know him from GLP, called Dr. Astro. Dr. Astro, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background in doing astronomy?
Sure. So I've been in amateur astronomy since about 1996, so almost 20 years there, and then I've been doing astrophotography since 2000, so about 15 years in astrophotography. I've dealt with just about every conspiracy theory to do with astronomy you can think of. And despite popular belief, I don't disbelieve in certain things that people assume I disbelieve in. People say to me all the time, why don't you believe in aliens? You know, you spend all this time doing astronomy. Why don't you believe in some conspiracy theory involving government covering up aliens and all this? I'm a very much an evidence-based guy, and I don't disbelieve in the existence of aliens. I think there are aliens out there. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But my point is that, you know, I love to look at claims, no matter how crazy, and see where the evidence takes us. Because in doing so, we can learn a lot. So I think this is a teachable moment because we can learn a lot about astronomy and about the sky and about things we take for granted about our planet that most people don't stop to think about. So I look at this as a good thing in the end, but you have to be willing to follow the evidence, even if it goes against your beliefs.
Yes, very well said. Yes, in fact, and for those of you wondering, I first came across Dr. Astro during the Comet Ison debacle, which I'm sure he fondly remembers, which he got assaulted for because he was basically telling folks there's absolutely nothing to worry about. There's no chance that Comet Ison was going to hit the Earth, and I'm sure you had quite a bit of negative feedback dealing with that event, did you not?
Oh, I certainly did, but a lot of good came out of it as well. I mean, one of my photos of Comet Ison ended up getting published in Sky and Telescope, which was a lifelong dream for me to be published in Sky and Telescope. And right next to one of my idols in astrophotography, Jerry Rodriguez, who won Sky and Telescope's Ison photo contest, I came in second place. So to come in second place next to your idol is quite a dream come true. So in the end, it was beneficial for me as well.
Awesome.
If I may interject before we get to Run to Christ,
Yep.
Just a little thought. You know, this sort of flat Earth thing is very reminiscent of not only the Comet Ison thing, but also the fake snow. If you guys don't remember that,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So, it's very reminiscent of this sort of, and we see it rarely. But we'll see it like once a year or so now, and it's, well, this sort of truth community, I guess, is new. So we're seeing it maybe once or twice a year. This sort of these random sort of spurts of unscientific, illogical, I guess, rumors that go around, and they're very easily debunked. It happens every now and then. So
Yeah,
I think
there's always something that's being pushed, some sort of fear, some sort of comet, some sort of doom that's going to come and get us. And I think that it's cyclical. It's I would say every 2 to 6 months you get something new coming in, something big that's going to destroy us all, and that keeps everybody that's in those sort of circles really, really focused on it, and it gets a lot of attention. I remember Comet Ison got hundreds and hundreds of thousands, millions of views on YouTube videos. People were really buying into it, and it appeals to a broad demographic because you have people that are interested in science, amateur astronomers and stuff like that, but you also have Christians and different religious backgrounds, and then you just have plain old conspiracy theorists who want to believe that the Earth is going to end at any given moment. So I think there is always a market for doom, and that's one of the problems that we have to deal with when we are trying to be truthers. We have to be true to everything, meaning that we don't want to push anything that is false. And therefore, that's why we're here tonight to discuss this. But without any further ado, I'd like to bring in Run to Christ. First time on the show. Welcome, friend.
Hey Jeff, how you doing?
Oh, I'm great. How are you? Do you want to say anything about yourself to the audience?
Yeah, well, before I came to Christ, I had a great interest in science myself. So when I started studying the Bible, I was realizing that actually there's a lot of things in the Bible that were declared before science knew about it. So that sort of fascinated me, and I've been doing that for 7 years now, studying the Bible. So I'd like to address a few of the critics, the flat earth side. They tend to use the Bible to prove their flat earth theory, rather wrongly misinterpreting the scripture. So that'll be interesting to reveal to people that say the Bible says that it's flat when it's actually not.
Yes, that's going to be a huge part of the discussion for sure. We have a lot of people that are Christians that come in to listen to this, and I think it's very important to have someone like yourself on here to really get it across what is actually being taught and said within the Bible. Rob Masaryk, welcome to the show again, as always.
Hey guys, sorry I was caught up in the chat there for a second.
Well, great to have you.
Yeah, like I said, I was talking to a friend for about an hour on the phone, and we were actually debating this topic today, and I told her my views on it, and yeah, like I say, I think it's a big PSYOP. I think it's I have a feeling, I don't have proof yet, but I believe it's UN funded. But I'm still going to...
The irony, of course, UN has the so-called flat Earth flag.
Yeah, exactly.
Which we'll get into as well, of course.
Yeah. So anyways, that's my theory about it.
Awesome. The one and only press Reset Earth.
Yes. Sort of already told you why I want to talk about this, but yeah, you can find me on Press Reset Earth or Press Reset Radio or Press Reset Ultimate, and you know, I have been looking into this theory for at least a month or so now. This flat Earth theory. There's a lot of different models, and I definitely get the impression that when I first looked into it, that these people are on to something here, and then I looked into the other side of the argument, the globe Earth theory, the traditional theory, and it demonstrates that flat Earth is just not possible, and these are things that you can test on your own. You don't have to go to NASA or any major scientific institution to disprove this theory. So, hey, it's wrong. Truth is truth, whether we like it or not. And I understand this need to sort of go against the establishment, and I think that's where this derives from, this theory and these outrageous claims like fake snow and stuff. People think it's almost like a cool thing to do, even if it's not necessarily true. It's just like, well, it's against the New World Order. They're liars. It's sort of like this follower type mentality, and they're not using their own minds. They're not using logic, science, and even their own intuition, because even your own intuition would tell you if you had any sense of reality that we're not on a flat Earth, because everything else is round in the sky. But whatever.
Awesome. The lovely Chrissy Tokyo with her shining silver band hammer.
Wait, I'm here. Sorry, I stepped away. I realized I didn't have my stuff on. Yeah, hi. I don't know. Pretty much, everyone else has covered pretty much why I'm here. I think it's just like I think you kind of covered it. This isn't an attack on anyone who is really looking for the truth and maybe going in this direction. I think it's just really, both sides of the coin have to be presented, and so that's really, I think, what this is and what it's going to be. I know a lot of people are trying to say it's this, that, and the other, and to me, it's simply just the other side of things, letting it be put out there for whoever to see. That's all I wanted to add.
Yes, and last but not least, Chad Lilly. Welcome again, friend.
Hello. Thanks for having me, man.
Well, it's always a pleasure.
I just want to say that when I first heard of this, I didn't bother even looking into it because it just seemed ludicrous on its face. And then, to be fair, and because I wanted to be scientific about it, I went and looked at the claims, and it's got some fascinating things in it. I think you guys have already mentioned, and unfortunately we're all in agreement here, that this isn't about attacking anyone's beliefs. It's about knowing what's true, and that's why I'm here. I just want to know what's true. I don't care if the Earth's a triangle. If that, as long as that's what's true, right? If that's what the evidence says, but if that's what the evidence said, then I would be a triangle earther, truther, whatever you want to call it.
I'm sure they're out there too.
And just to clarify for our audience that is listening right now, we are not here to debate with flat earthers tonight. We are here to debunk the flat Earth, to prove that the Earth is round. So if there will be a debate, it will be in the future, and I will be open to having that debate, and something can be arranged. But for now, we are not having the flat earthers into the discussion. So without any further ado, we're going to get right into it. I think, Press, you want to start with the ships. As a kid, I used to go to the ocean a lot on the east coast of the United States, and one of the things we used to watch, of course, with binoculars, is the ships as they would disappear over the horizon. And, of course, my nerdy scientific brother would explain the curvature of the Earth and all that, and it just seems so obvious. That's exactly what was happening. Is there any other possible explanation for why a ship would disappear from the bottom first, as it would, travel away into the sea?
I will say this, and I'm going to present, first of all, the flat Earth theory as to why ships disappear over the horizon. They contend that it's actually just vanishing from your perspective because it's just too far away and you can't see it anymore. And I'm going to address that after we show this clip. But let's just show this clip first, and you can see that the the ship sort of disappears over the horizon, and it's you can see the bottom of it go first, which suggests it's going over something, and the curvature is causing the bottom to disappear first and then the top, and that's impossible on a flat Earth. And I'll get into more why it's impossible on a flat Earth. Let me just show this clip. You can see the bird flying around, and it's timed, so you can see the each half hour. Go down here a little bit. There it is, again at 12 p.m. You see, this would be impossible on a flat Earth because you can see the bottom of it going first.
Exactly. It would just get smaller in the distance. That's all.
Right. So all right. So I'll continue playing it. But if the Earth was indeed flat, what would happen it would get smaller and smaller and smaller. And sure, you wouldn't be able to see it anymore. But if you had a powerful enough telescope or whatever, you would be able to zoom in basically forever and still see it. And yes, they're right. You wouldn't be able to see China or whatever with your naked eye. You wouldn't be able to see much on a flat Earth. But if you had binoculars, a really powerful telescope, and the world was indeed flat, you would be able to see. Just like if you point a telescope into the sky, you can point it into the darkest depths of space or whatever, and if it's powerful enough, you can see far enough. And the disappearing vanishing point makes sense to the naked eye, but not to the telescope, not to the binoculars. Okay, that's why we know. I can't believe we're having this discussion. but
You could do this yourself. I'm
you
going
can
to
do
show
it,
this in a second here. I'm going to get it lined up, but I'm going to show the example of Toronto as seen from the other side of Lake Ontario. I want to ask our astronomer here, Dr. Astro, do you have anything you'd like to say about this particular claim?
he might be on mute. Is he? Or
Hey, I'll throw something in on that.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Hold on.
Well, aside from ships disappearing when they go over the horizon bottom first, they also appear top first when they come over. And you can test this a number of ways as well if you're on the water. And it also works that higher lights on the horizon as you're approaching it are going to appear before lower lights on the shore, even if the lower lights are much closer to you than the higher lights are. Mm-hmm. And as well, it works the exact same thing with mountains. Anything on the shore, on the horizon, the higher things are going to appear first, the lower things are going to appear after, even if the lower things are closer. And anyone can test that.
right, and again, these are things you can test on your own. NASA lies, but that doesn't make the Earth automatically flat. And I don't know. Do you guys have anything else to say on that little shred of evidence there? Or?
Well, yeah. Also, for what you said earlier about how they're saying, okay, it's just going in the distance, so obviously it's going to disappear out of your sight. That doesn't make sense to the fact that the bottom disappears first. It explains nothing.
Right, and that itself, in and of itself, should be proof. And again, we can discuss the theory of flat Earth and say that it just vanishes from viewpoint. But what about lenses? What about binoculars and a telescope that make your viewpoint more close to whatever's in the distance? It doesn't account for that, and it just doesn't work in the flat Earth model. It's impossible, and guys, I don't see how that's even refutable. But I'm just gonna share my screen here again and go on to one more proof, and we can talk about this for a while. I would think because.
Well, wait a second. Are you moving on from the whole horizon thing? Because I want to make sure that if we're going to move on to the next thing, that everyone has had a chance to address it.
Sure. Yeah.
I wanted to ask Dr. Astro, do you have anything you wanted to say dealing with this? Can you hear us?
Yeah, no, I think you guys covered it pretty well there. I mean, what more can be said? Ships do disappear whole first and appear massed first as they come up over the horizon. The one thing I will say is that you can sometimes get strange mirage effects, strange atmospheric refraction, things like that. Those are the exception to the rule. But we have to keep in mind that we are living on a planet that has an atmosphere. This is not an airless body, and so sometimes the atmosphere will play tricks on the eye. That's how mirages happen. Anyone can see that on a given day, and I don't think anyone could reasonably argue that that's evidence that the Earth is flat. That's evidence that the Earth has an atmosphere.
Yes, I want to actually show that. This is something that I do have lined up, dealing with that particular argument with explaining how the skyline can be seen. Now I'm going to share a little bit of this video. It's from a flat earther, but it's proof for them that the Earth is flat here, which is a video of Chicago that's seen from the Michigan shore. So let's start the screen share here. Hang on a second. Click on myself. Present to everyone. Okay, so you guys see my screen here?
No, not right now.
I saw for 1 second, but it just
disappeared. Is it back? Is it back?
Yeah, try it.
I don't see it.
Oh,
okay, hang on 1 sec. And the problem is here, of course, is I have umpteen windows open. I'm trying to navigate through them, so I'll do it over time here. Hang on. I think it just automatically stopped sharing. So start screen share. Present to everyone. Okay. Now you guys see?
Good to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's listen in here for a second.
This photo, Grandmere State Park. This is from Joshua Nowicki. And what you're seeing here is a mirage. We typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore. We talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake that we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline. Very interesting. Here's what's happening. This is a good example of a superior mirage. So Joshua was on the Lake Michigan shore. He was looking towards the west, and Chicago's beyond the horizon. Should not be able to see it. However, with the right conditions, we have an inversion. We have cold air near the cold lake water and some relatively warmer air above it. This will bend the image of that skyline back towards the viewer. And so typically we would not be able to see this. This image would be viewable from much, much higher in the sky, up in space.
Okay, so show that. They're going to show some NASA stuff to show. Okay, so another example is the stars. People pay attention here. This is why stars twinkle. Also, the sun is never quite where you think it is. So
stars, except for the sun, appear as tiny dots in the sky. As the light travels through the many layers of the Earth's atmosphere, the light of the star is bent, refracted many times, and in random directions. Light is bent when it hits a change in density, like a pocket of cold air or hot air. This random refraction results in the star winking out. It looks as though the star moves a bit, and our eye interprets this as twinkling. Stars closer to the horizon appear to twinkle more than stars that are overhead. This is because the light of stars near the horizon has to travel through more air than the light of stars overhead, and so is subject to more refraction. Also, planets do not usually twinkle because they are so close to us. They appear big enough that the twinkling is not noticeable, except when the air is extremely turbulent. Stars would not appear to twinkle if we viewed them from outer space or from a planet or moon that didn't have an atmosphere. Apparent position of sun. Because of atmospheric refraction, we do not see the sun or the stars in its true position except when it is directly overhead. As a ray of light from the sun enters Earth's atmosphere at B, it continuously bends towards the radius of the Earth. The ray of light will reach the observer at O, as if it had come in the direction AO instead of in its true direction BO. Consequently, we do not see the true position of the sun. It is due to atmospheric refraction that the sun is visible before actual sunrise and after actual sunset. Do you know this fact? The sun appears to rise 2 minutes before the actual rise, and it continues to be seen 2 minutes after it has actually set. Therefore, the day becomes longer by 4 minutes due to atmospheric refraction.
Okay, so that's very interesting points, right? There's many articles that point out this phenomenon. So it does happen when the temperature, when the atmosphere is just right, you will see these types of mirages. Okay, so that's we wanted to be able to deal with that particular claim there, and I think that anybody want to say anything more on that?
Yeah, just that's something that a lot of these flat earthers forget to incorporate into their model is light refraction, and it's very, very important. And yeah, and I actually think it's really interesting learning about that kind of stuff. But that's just me. Yeah, anybody else?
It goes into the old. I don't want to jump ahead, but it goes into the Bedford level experiments, which some sects of flat earthers like to discuss all the time, and how some people seem to get results that indicated that the Earth was flat, whereas others clearly had results that the Earth was round. And part of that had to do with the potential for mirages and how the experiments were conducted. If you perform the experiment very, very close to the ground, you're going to maximize the amount of potential atmospheric refraction, which is one of the reasons why Wallace designed the experiment when he did it to use cues that were several feet, 13 feet above the ground, so that you minimize the effect of atmospheric refraction. And the fact that he used 13 feet, to me it's unbelievable, but I guess to some people this might make sense. It was accused of being, what do they call it, Freemason trickery or something, because it's the number 13. I don't know, it doesn't make any logical sense to me, but that's what people seize on now, is he used the number 13, so it must be a trick, I guess. But it was viewed and judged by multiple people who all saw that indeed the markers indicated that Earth is round. They had 3 markers spaced out across the Bedford stretch, and the middle marker appeared higher than the closer marker, the further marker, because of the curvature of Earth. So that's an experiment that people can recreate. They can look out over a bay and see that the bottom of, say, a city or a boat is obscured. So it's not like it's some Masonic trick that only a certain sect of people can do. Anyone can try it.
Yeah, and thanks for mentioning that, Dr. Astro, the 13 connection to possible like Freemasonic connections, because I think it's important we go over everything, both sides, is sort of, and just include all that information, because we want people to decide for themselves. So.
Well, that is one of the experiments that they use. I mean, that is to prove that the Earth is flat. I mean, they've been using that for how long? I mean, do you know when that experiment was done, Dr. Astro?
Yeah, sorry, I just had to unmute my mic here. Yeah, that was 1870 is when Wallace performed the experiment. And interestingly, the history of that was such that the guy who was making this bet, this offer, used the pseudonym Parallax. And his challenge to scientists to prove that the Earth was round was actually published in the first volume of the scientific journal Nature, which is one of the largest scientific journals still being published today. It's kind of the high watermark of science to be able to say that you were published in Nature or Science. Those are like the 2 heavy hitters. But in the very first volume, they actually published Parallax's letter and made mention of the Wallace experiment and warned the readers to be careful when engaging Parallax, because he would probably ignore their results, even if they were positive in favor of a round Earth. That he was not an honest broker, essentially, but they went ahead for the sake of fairness and published his letter in Nature, which is something they would never do today, but back in the 19th
His name was Samuel Robotham, right?
Robotham was not Parallax. Robotham was Parallax's mentor. I forget the name of the guy who wrote that challenge, but Robotham was sort of his mentor, and if I remember correctly, and it was his student, his protege, who came along and made that challenge and fought with Wallace, getting into some severe trouble, actually going into jail because he threatened Wallace's life.
Yeah, and this was a while ago, and what is his name, Alfred Wallace, he was criticized by his peers for even taking the challenge, because even back then it was such a ridiculous notion that the Earth was flat and that this experiment was proving it.
I'm glad that we covered this particular, because that's one of John LeBon's questions that he wanted us to cover. And yes, it's very important that people understand the manipulations that were used in that particular event, and that is not real science that they're using there, and that's one of the reasons why we were showing atmospheric refraction and stuff like that. Anybody else want to say anything more on the Bedford experiment there?
No.
No, you can move on, mate.
Okay, so maybe now would be a good opportunity to ask our Christian friend here, Run to Christ, to come in to discuss Christians and the Bible, whether or not the Earth is considered flat.
Yeah, well, in my humble opinion, the Bible clearly states many times over that the Earth is round or a circle, and a lot of people use the corners of the Earth phrase from Revelation to somehow suggest that it's square, flat-shaped, if you know what I mean, like the corners of your room, you know. But the actual words that they use in the Greek, it means circle, and when you look at where the word corner comes from in English, it actually means a curve, like a corner on a racetrack, if you can get my meaning there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the original Greek says circle and corners. Everybody misinterprets that. How can a ball have corners, right? But the word corners means curve or circle. You know? So that's their main point when they use the Bible to support the flat Earth theory.
There is another part of the Bible in Chronicles. It says that the earth shall not be moved, and I think that's another big part of this flat earth theory that we haven't addressed yet, is that they also believe the earth is stationary. It doesn't move through space. It's the absolute bottom, and that is a huge fallacy in itself right there.
Well, you could even still... Go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's more about the geocentric sort of thing, isn't it? But do they borrow that as well then?
Yeah, and the thing is, you could still, you could still believe in geocentricity and believe in a spherical Earth. In fact, I do know some. I'm not going to name them, but popular Christian channels I've talked to in the background that actually do believe that, because there's so much evidence that we can test ourselves that it's a globe. It's pretty much irrefutable, but the geocentricity is, well, I'm sure Dr. Astro would completely disagree with me, but it's a little harder to prove, maybe, unless you, if you're somebody who doesn't trust like NASA or whatever, it's a little harder to prove. But I don't know. Again, I'm not an expert on the heliocentricity, geocentricity thing, but I know a lot of Christians that do believe in a round Earth, at the same time believe in geocentricity.
Yeah, well, I'm undecided on geocentric. I find it fascinating that, right, more so than the flat Earth. I don't think it's incompatible, but I think when the Bible says something's fixed or established, I think there's not a good case there for geocentricity for me, but it might just mean fixed and established as the orbit of the Earth is established into it.
Well, I think it's pretty easily proven that the Earth is not the center of the universe or our solar system, just based on the fact of the size of the sun and how gravity works. We're going to rotate around the sun. It's not going to rotate around us.
Yeah, well, like I said, I don't believe that the Bible is saying geocentricity, No,
that's not what I'm saying. What I was saying, referring to Chronicles, it does say the Earth shall not be moved, and what that brought to mind for me when I was looking into this flat Earth theory is that they also believe the Earth just sits still. It doesn't travel through space.
Yeah, I see.
I'm interested, Run to Christ. I mean, do you find that most Christians, the ones that you know, are round Earth people, or is there a strong flat Earth sort of movement within the Christian world?
No, the most Christians are round Earth. It is quite clear in the book of Isaiah. It states the circle of the Earth, and that goes back to a couple of hundred years before Aristotle and Pythagoras declared it themselves. You know what I mean? So most Christians believe in the round Earth. The flat Earth thing is a fallacy that kind of gets the Bible a bad name. You know, the entire Muslim community insists that the Bible says flat Earth, while the Quran says round Earth, even though the Quran was 600 AD, and the entire Earth had figured out that it was round by the time that book was written, whereas Isaiah declared it before science did. You know, so
very interesting. Very interesting. Maybe I could segue this into a question. I could ask this to Dr. Astro. I'm sure he'll find it amusing. What would you say if somebody came up to you and said the sun is 3,000 miles above us, and that this explains the hot spots in the cloud? That's from a YouTuber called John LeBon. How would you respond to that?
Okay, yeah, that's a popular claim among flat earthers. It kind of goes back to Aristotle. Oh God, I'm never going to pronounce that name right. Whatever.
Eratosthenes, right?
Yes.
Oh,
thank
okay.
you. So several thousand years ago, a Greek figured out that Earth is round, and actually he measured the radius and circumference of the Earth using the parallax of the sun. So if you're standing at two different points on Earth simultaneously, and if you were looking up at Earth, or you two observers on Earth looking up at the sun simultaneously, they'd see it in a different position. And you can use that to figure out the radius, the size of the Earth. Well, the problem is the flat earthers say, well, he's assuming the Earth is round, and if you were to take the opposite of that and say the Earth is flat, that would indicate that the sun's some 3,000 miles away. The problem with that claim, the biggest problem with that claim, is the fact that the sun's apparent width is constant over the course of the day. So you would expect if the sun were only 3,000 some miles away from Earth, when it's high overhead, it should be much closer to you than when it's low on the horizon. You should see the apparent width of it contract quite noticeably as it approaches the horizon. We actually see this with satellites. I can think of a couple of examples right off the top of my head. Of course, ISS being the largest low Earth orbit satellite, it's the easiest to see a shape to it. You can see that in a small telescope. My scope, I've seen it many times, and it grows considerably in apparent size from rising to being at the highest point in the sky. You would see the same thing in the sun and in the moon if they were only a few thousand miles from us. Even satellites flying in formation, MMS, for example, was put up recently. It's a series of 4 satellites flying in formation together, and you can see this entire formation shrink as it approaches the horizon. And again, that's what we would see if the sun were also only a few thousand miles from us. Now, I've heard the excuses made that, well, the sun's really bright, so you can't really tell how bright or how big it is when it's high in the sky. You can get a solar filter and see that. I use a Thousand Oaks Type 2 Plus solar filter for my telescope. I highly recommend them. I think they're some of the highest quality white light filters you can get. And you can very easily measure the true size of the sun using a camera and a telescope.
Yeah, good point. And a little segue as well, I'd love to hear your experiences seeing satellites, okay? And this is something you can see for yourself as well. Now, of course, my opinion on NASA, they do lie about a lot of stuff, but I think satellites is one of those things that's pretty irrefutable. Global positioning system, triangulation, all this, it's not possible without satellites, and you can see them yourself, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't tell you how many satellites I've seen. I've long lost count. But obviously I've seen the space station. I've got a number of videos on my YouTube channel of the space station orbiting the Earth, seen through my telescope. I tracked the space shuttle on the final space shuttle mission, STS-135, as it was docked to ISS. I was one of the last people to see it docked to the space station, and in broad daylight because the station's that bright. You can see geostationary satellites. I've seen all the DirecTV satellites that you can see from North America. You can see them sitting there stationary. I can literally switch the power off on the telescope, and they will remain perfectly stationary with no tracking because they're at the geostationary orbit. They're orbiting the Earth far enough that their orbital period is exactly equal to Earth's rotation.
Right.
They can remain stationary because orbital velocity is with respect to the center of the Earth as if it weren't moving. It doesn't matter that the Earth is rotating. So if you pick the right distance from the Earth, the semi-major axis, the width of an orbit determines how quickly you go around the parent body. And so if you pick the right distance from the parent body, you can match that parent body's rotation. And that's how geostationary satellites work. They don't work on a flat Earth, obviously. They'd fall right out of the sky. They don't even really work in a geocentric worldview, but there's some caveats to that. I won't go into that. That's a whole other subject. But if some geocentrists deny relativity and simultaneously try to claim geocentrism. Geostationary satellites absolutely, positively cannot work within that paradigm.
I have a question dealing with that. If people, because there's a lot of theory or a lot of conspiracy theories dealing with the International Space Station. What would one need to verify for themselves, just to see it themselves? What kind of telescope would they be required to have just to be able to look at it and verify themselves that it's up there?
Well, you know, I will admit it is one of the greatest observing challenges I've ever undertaken. I'm not by any means the best satellite tracker out there. That would probably go to Terry Legault or perhaps some others who do this basically as their focus of their hobby as amateur astronomers. They are satellite trackers. And I use an 8-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain, an LX200 Classic. It's a computerized Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope. I have a program on my computer that I can load up the orbital elements for any satellite, and it will command the telescope to point along that orbit and track the object actively. So all I basically have to do is hit go, but you have to do some adjustment with that because the program is relatively simplistic to save on processing overhead. It doesn't account for things like atmospheric drag or relativity or factors like that. Actually, it might account for relativity. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the source code. But it doesn't account for all the factors, right? It doesn't account for the gravity of the moon and how that perturbs the orbit. So you have to do a little bit of fine-tuning to get it in there. That sounds easy enough, but it's in practice much harder than it looks. When I first started out, what I would do is I'd sit outside with the telescope. I'd have the computer there. I'd start the tracking. And reliably, it would always put it in the viewfinder, but not necessarily in the eyepiece. So I'd have a joystick, and I'd move the joystick to try to tune it in there and get it into the eyepiece by issuing the manual corrections. In practice, that was way more difficult than it might sound. So I've now got a 2-video camera system where I have 2 video cameras going simultaneously, and I use one to command the telescope to tune itself and get it into the main camera. So it takes a lot of practice. It's quite tricky to do it that way, but the results, I think, come out the best because you get smooth tracking from horizon to horizon, potentially. You can do it with simple equipment. I've seen guys who have successfully gotten good images using nothing more than a simple Dobsonian telescope, which is a relatively affordable telescope. An 8 or 10-inch telescope will show you a great deal of detail on ISS, solar panels, habitable modules, even spaceships coming and going from the space station. But it's quite tricky, and again, it takes practice. What they're doing is, it's not computerized, it's not motorized. All they're doing is they're putting a camera in the eyepiece to record for them. They start the recording. They don't even really look at the camera for the most part. Most of them just look through the viewfinder and get the viewfinder tuned up so that the crosshairs match exactly what the camera's seeing. So they keep it centered in the crosshairs and just hope and pray that it's in the camera, and then they look at it afterwards and see how the results came out and pick out the few frames where they managed to get a clear shot of ISS. That's good enough for getting still shots, but you're not going to get terribly smooth video that way for the most part. You really do need computerized tracking. Terry Legault is a amateur tracker who has basically hollowed out his telescope. Well, he's modified it specifically for satellite tracking. I don't even think it's capable of doing standard astrophotography, but the mount that he uses for satellite tracking, he's modified it so that basically he uses a what is essentially an RC plane type controller with 2 joysticks, and somehow he's got this thing hooked up so that he can zoom on it that way and tune it up that way so that he keeps on the station, and he gets spectacular results. He uses a telescope that's almost twice as large as mine, so he gets even better resolution. The bigger your telescope, the more resolution you're going to get, but you can see the basic details with a fairly small scope. A 6-inch scope will show you a great deal. I've got an 8-inch that shows me a pretty good deal too.
So yeah, I mean, like the things like that, you can verify yourself. You don't. I mean, if you have the equipment, essentially, right? You know how to use it, right? You can go and just, you know, I mean, it takes a lot of time. Obviously, it takes a lot of practice to become you know, a competent astronomer, to be able to understand how to use the equipment and all that. But once you get it down, you can really do this. And this is what, of course, flat earthers would never do. I mean, now, this is a broad question to everybody in the panel. I'm not 100% certain, but is it true that flat earthers believe that all satellites are fake? Is that one of their...
Most of them do, yes. Most of them operate under the assumption that NASA is just a total, complete hoax. Everything ever put out by NASA is a hoax, and you can't even get into space. You can't get into any kind of orbit. It's just a complete, absolute farce from you know, A to Z. And I don't know, maybe there's other versions of the theory that, you know, don't believe that, maybe, I don't know, but yeah, that's pretty much what they believe. Mm-hmm.
I've actually had some of my videos get pulled onto these flat earth forums and accused of being fake. Not even necessarily that I'm posting it, but somebody else sees my videos, thinks this is great proof that the earth is round, so they post it. And yeah, I get accused of being a hoaxer who's somehow supporting this round earth conspiracy. But you know, you don't even necessarily have to buy your own telescope and train yourself. And that's what they're going to say. They're going to say, well, you haven't really proven it because you haven't shown me in person, and where's your telescope? And I don't have a telescope, I can't see it, so how am I supposed to know that it's real? The thing is, you don't need to. I mean, really, you can go to a star party, and there will be amateur astronomers like me, some of whom may be capable of satellite tracking. I'm pretty routinely present at the Chiefland Fall Star Party. It's a huge gathering of many amateur astronomers, and I, you know, myself or anyone else who does satellite track would be more than happy to show you the space station in person. I've done it before at star parties, and it's always a huge hit. People love seeing it because it's a breathtaking sight, and it's you know, very rare that anyone actually gets to see it in person, you know, up close like that.
Well, I think that would, I mean, a lot of people automatically think everything NASA does is fake. So I think a lot of people that are listening to this owe themselves to go and check out one of these star parties and really get a view of the International Space Station. And don't just assume things are fake. Actually do the work. And if you don't do the work, then how can you make the claim? If you're using no science, what are you using? You're just taking it directly out of your ass, essentially, and you're making these assumptions because somebody lied to you about something at one time, that everything's a lie. And I think this is one of the big PSYOPs dealing with flat Earth. I think they really want to make you distrust and disbelieve everything, the whole structure of our society, you know, everything you see on television. And this is what I get into because, you know, like I cover hoaxes, right, and you know, Sandy Hook and Boston and stuff like that. And I always try to tell people, look, not everything is fake. In fact, most things aren't fake. It would be impossible for the media to fake everything. It would be absolutely impossible. It would be beyond any you know, capability of at this point in day and age to fake every event that is out there. They're not faking every event. They're faking some of the major events, which they're using to, you know, push certain laws and to change the direction of our structure of our world, global sort of government. But you cannot throw the baby out with the bathwater. You cannot throw science out when you're talking about science. If you're going to talk about the, you know, the space station or the moon or whatever, then, you know, you owe it to yourself to get yourself a telescope, or at least get to somewhere where there is one where you can actually look at these things yourself and realize that, you know, a lot of what's being pushed out there is just pure fantasy, and a lot of it is a PSYOP that is there to scare you into thinking that everything is fake and that you live on a flat Earth. So, with yeah.
I was going to say, I think that brings up a good question that I'm yet to get an answer to. And like what you said about Sandy Hook, okay, so they pull off this big stunt, it's a big hoax, kids getting killed, we need to get rid of guns. There's the motive behind it. So my question is, if anyone on the panel can answer this, what are the flat earthers saying the motive for people saying the Earth is round is? Or why is NASA or whoever they're claiming to be lying, why are they lying and saying the Earth is round? Where's the motive?
I've heard one reasonable motive. It is to sort of make us think that we're so. In other words, if the flat Earth is real, then we're the center of everything, the center of the universe. We're way more important than they're telling us we are, which, in my opinion, we still are extremely important, even if the Earth isn't flat. But that's but that's one of their reasons.
Okay.
I don't know. Is there any
more? That does make a lot of sense.
It does, yeah.
That's important.
Right. And there is more to it as well, because they claim there's some more land that we don't know about. All we know is the landmass that we know that is, available, and outside the ice wall that is really Antarctica, there's more land.
Right, and I heard one theory, which, and here's the thing, it's interesting, and this is another reason why people buy into it. You get a rush from thinking that this may be indeed possible, that this may be indeed the case. Like, it's like, oh, whoa, we've been lied to. Whoa,
Right.
this is crazy.
It would be amazing. But press, like we said in the beginning, it is about what is true rather than creating a clever story that's amusing or fun to believe. I mean, if we were going to do that, I would come up with one that says, you know what, Atlantis and Lemuria is actually under the ice of Antarctica.
Right.
I don't want you to know.
Yeah.
Well, this whole psyop is about manipulating gullible people.
But exactly. But it's not about making up clever stories. It's about what is true.
Right, and that's what the truth movement should be about. And I think people get just carried away and they get addicted to that feeling. It's much like the fear porn thing. They get addicted to the fear porn. Oh, something's about to happen. Look out!
Sure.
And then it doesn't. And then it's the same thing with the reawakening thing. It's not even a reawakening. It's a going back to sleep, but it gives you that same false rush that you got when you woke up to something true, like 9/11 being an inside job, or something. So so it's very complex. But one thing I did want to say, one theory, and this is interesting. Listen to this. One theory of the flat earthers is that there's many Earths, and if you were to cross the ice plane that's surrounding everything, right? The ice wall, that you would find a whole nother Earth, whole nother sort of human Earth thing going on. So I just wanted to throw that in.
Maybe you find the wildlings.
And they know
White Walkers.
The White Walkers.
They notice how.
Oh my God, that was a good little analogy. Yeah. Anyway.
I'd like to point out, though, that one of the ways that this is being presented to people, or as I say, sold to them, is based on manipulation and deception. And it goes a little something like this. If you're asking people who don't fully know the answers to the questions you're asking them, if you're using that as your best method to convey your theory or claim, you're basing it on manipulation. And when the person doesn't know the correct answer, well, then they're using it as, aha, that leads credence, or at least creates doubt, to where the audience comes away going, well, I never really thought about that before, and because I can't answer that question you asked me, maybe you're right. And that's how this is being sold.
Yeah,
for
sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That kind of brings up what you were saying about crossing the ice that surrounds it. Now, what was that thing that you sent around today, Jeff, that had what is it? John LeBon will do it live, flat Earth special betting markets. What is this exactly?
It's quite amusing. He takes bets on what we will and won't discuss. One of the ones that placed quite high was nobody has ever circumnavigated the Earth from north to south ever.
Yeah, and that is untrue. Because in 1979, there were two men who headed up a expedition that started from Greenwich in the UK, and they went around the South Pole. A year and a half later, they crossed the South Pole. About 7 months after that, they crossed the North Pole, and about 2.5 years after they began their journey, they were back in Greenwich.
Wow. And I imagine it's all documented and photographed.
That's in the Guinness World Book of Records.
Yeah.
So there you go, and it's also, doing the Arctic is difficult enough, right? I mean, you have to do it either when the peak ice is there, I guess, right? Because of how difficult it would be to navigate the Arctic Ocean with all the ice broken up and flowing everywhere. But the Antarctic, of course, is famously the last horizon sort of thing. I mean, it's one of the most, it is the most difficult terrain on the planet for any human being to exist on. And this is why it works as a perfect metaphor for flat Earth, because you don't want to go there, unless you're in like some high-tech, helicopter, and you've got a nice cozy shack that's insulated to the hilt, sort of thing. You're not going to want to go to the Antarctic because you won't live very long unless you have all the provisions and everything you need necessary to do so. But many people have, and there's been many expeditions that have gone and either failed or succeeded, right? Scott of the Antarctic, things like that, right? Yes, you could. Why don't you go? If you don't believe, if these people honestly believe that the Antarctic is, and this is one of their things too, right? I'm going to show this. I'm going to share my screen here because I want to talk about some of the maps that they like to show over and over again to convince us that the Earth is, of course, flat. So hang on a second here. Which window is it?
And while you're bringing that up, Jeff, I'd like people to remember that one of the flat Earth claims is that no one flies over the poles. You can't get commercial airlines to do it, and this, that, and the other. And turns out that is incorrect. Not only is it incorrect, there is an airline who specializes in that. They fly out of Australia, and they give you the tour of Antarctica. Not only just flying you over the continent back and forth, but taking you to some of the sightseeing things where the plane will just circle around the mountain or whatever that they want to show you. And it's a very popular tour. It's taken by thousands of people every year, and anyone is welcome to actually take that tour and go see Antarctica, the whole thing, from a plane in a very nice, comfortable luxury cabin.
Indeed, and in fact, those flights like that are often done in the middle of what Southern Hemisphere summer, so that you have midnight sun present in Antarctica, which is incidentally impossible in these flat Earth models of the Earth, because they generally have some sort of spotlight sun that goes around the plate of the Earth, the circle of the Earth, and you can't possibly have the sun remaining above the horizon from a point in Antarctica for 24 hours, or even really for all that long, even in what should be Southern Hemisphere summer. It only works on a globe.
Yes, exactly. Yes, 100%. And okay, so I'm gonna hopefully, I mean, it won't share my photo program for some reason, but I'm hoping this will work here. Because I want to discuss this. I mean, this will get into some of the claims that are out there. Hopefully, will this work? Can you see? Hang on a second here. No, you're just gonna see that. Hang on a second. Stop. Screen share. All right, so I'll show this photo here. This is, of course, the idea here. You guys see my screen? Hang on a second. I'll present to everyone. Okay. Can you see my screen here, what I'm showing you?
No.
Nope.
It disappeared, Jeff. I could see it for a couple of seconds there, and it disappeared.
Okay, hang on a second here. Let me just get a couple images that I want to show open so that I can switch between them. Haven't quite mastered it. Okay, there's this one that's pretty famous, and then I don't know if I have the United Nations one. I'm going to hopefully have that, because a lot of people like to bring that up as evidence that the Earth is flat. the United Nations logo, their symbol, right? We'll start with this one. We'll talk about it for a second here. Yeah. Okay, started screen share. Present to everyone. Okay, so you've seen this one before, guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one was from, I believe, I'm not sure exactly the year, in the 1800s at some point in time. This idea, and this is where you have the idea that the sun is, what is it, 3,000 miles away, and so is the moon, and they're exactly the same size, and they spin around. And the idea, of course, is that the Antarctic is actually, well, it's frickin' massive, according to this. It's like the biggest thing ever. And it is indeed a giant wall that surrounds the entire Earth, and that it's impassable, sort of thing. And that's, or maybe it's not. I mean, maybe you'd have to climb over it, and maybe you could sit up on the ledge after. I don't know. What do you guys think about this? This is something that's was debunked way back then, but it's still being used all the time.
Well, I think it's pretty ridiculous considering the way that they have the sun set up. I mean, that's so scientifically inaccurate. If that were the case, you would be able to see the light from the sun at all points during the day, no matter where you are in that world.
Exactly.
Well, I find it interesting how the whole Antarctic sort of idea that it's some impassable wall, like the wall on Game of Thrones, right? And that's why as you know, we didn't show it, but I think it was Chad or Olin mentioned just before how you can actually take tours that circumnavigate around the Antarctic. They don't go around the entire Antarctic because it's a huge continent, right? But they'll go over all different areas of the Antarctic, if I'm not mistaken, right? To give you all different. I mean, how many different flights do they say there are on that? Do you guys have that?
You know, I can pull that video up, and anyone who you can just watch the YouTube videos as well. There's lots of video documentation of flights over Antarctica. So.
Yeah. Dr. Astro, would you like to say anything about this square and stationary Earth?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was having trouble seeing it for some reason from the Google Hangout screen. I could see it from the
chat.
From the chat. Yeah, it's hilarious. I really don't see how the seasons really work there. That doesn't seem to work. I'm sorry, it just doesn't.
One thing I'd like to say, and I'd like to sort of segue into this perfect, actually, right here, it's a perfect segue. So I'm going to share my screen real quick, and I'm going to show you guys basically what the moon looks like on each hemisphere, or looking at it from the southern versus the northern hemisphere. Okay, so I believe it's right here. Can you guys see?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously you see, looking at it from the northern hemisphere, you got it, the big one right here. That's the main one. You can see it again right here. But from the southern hemisphere, it looks like this down here at the bottom. Now, obviously, this is an exact inverse, pretty much exact. I don't know if it's exact, but it's an inverse. Basically, it's this upside down, right? So one would have to assume, basically, this person, in comparison to this person, well, this person is upside down in comparison to the top person. So it's basically like, but he thinks he's standing up because of gravity. He thinks which he is. He's standing upright, and he's looking at the moon upright. But basically, it's like a guy hanging upside down looking at the moon. And from his perspective, it's going to look upside down because he's upside down, right? Now, in a flat Earth model, as you can see here, the moon would have to be somewhere, maybe in the middle. It doesn't matter where you put it. It could be on the outside, completely circling. And if it were on the outside, completely circling, it would not appear inverse, upside down, from the southern hemisphere in comparison to the northern hemisphere. It would appear the same. Okay? Not only that, if it were in the middle somewhere, okay, if it were in the middle, and when we're looking at it from the southern hemisphere, so-called, in the flat Earth model, in comparison to the northern hemisphere, the person in the southern hemisphere would actually see the other side of the moon. So a completely different image of the moon. you wouldn't see the same exact image like here, it just upside
Exactly.
down. You would see the dark side of the moon, quote unquote. And that's impossible to see from anywhere on Earth. So there is no model in the flat Earth model that can explain this right here, that can explain reality.
And I think it's important to point out for anyone that doesn't know that's listening right now that the moon doesn't spin on an axis like the Earth does. The face of the moon is constantly pointing at the Earth.
Yes, which and you know there's a lot of strange things about the moon, which I'm not going to get into here, but you know, there's no doubt that this is proof that what you're looking at is around Earth, because it has to be a globe Earth to see the same thing at the same time, except upside down. I mean, how is that? How that can't be explained in the flat Earth? And even if they try to tell you, I had this one guy debunk my video. He basically erased everything and he drew a line from this guy to that guy and said, "Oh, that's." I was like, "No, you'd see something completely different." Like, what?
Can you show that other picture again, Press? Because it brings up another good point as well. With this model, what exactly is going to be causing a solar eclipse? Right? They would be impossible.
You could explain the solar eclipse because, but you couldn't explain the lunar eclipse. So the solar eclipse you could explain by the moon somehow obscuring the sun. It probably isn't even possible in this model.
It would be impossible in that model.
Well, you know, if you're like right here and you're looking at the moon, let's say it's night. Well, no, you're right, because it'd be nighttime, so it's impossible.
No, you have to have the Earth block it. Something has to block it, so it's impossible. And that brings up another really big, a good point and an easy way to prove to yourself that the Earth is round, and that's by looking at the eclipse of the moon. The shadow is curved. It's a clear orb. That's our planet that's causing that shadow.
Correct. And I've heard some theories say that the moon is a disk, okay? And you can simply debunk that, and I did it in my video, by using like a ball structure, and you can see the shadows are curved. This is replicating the moon cycles, the lunar cycles, and they're caused by the sun shining on the moon and it looking different. According to where the moon is, there would be like a new moon, right? I guess, or whatever.
Yeah, actually,
and then the disc, if you shine a disc, you can't get those curved shadows that you get on a sphere. It's impossible.
I just want to show you, actually, I'm going to show you this video here. I actually invited this guy to come on to the show, but he couldn't make it. But he did a pretty fascinating video here that I think is extremely well done. So I'm going to play a little bit of it here. Oh, I think you've got a screenshot from it there that you're showing. Hang on, Press. If I've got the video lined up here. So
it's a long video. If
I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm just going to play the part dealing with the moon itself.
Okay.
Here. And I think it does an incredible job showing. Present to everyone. You guys seeing my screen? Everything's slow because I have so many windows open, and it's like present to everyone. Okay, do you see it now? Can you guys see it?
Not yet.
Okay, let me just try again.
Anyone else can present it too. All you got to do is type in Flat Earth Debunked on YouTube. It's one of the first videos.
I'll try one more time, and if I can't, I'll quickly send you the link, Press. I just wanted to show a small portion of it because I think it really puts it in a very well-produced, obvious sort of presentation sort of thing.
We can see it now.
You can see. No, I just closed it. It's like everything's so slow. I'm stuck in a different time zone. All right.
Flat Earth.
So can you see it now?
No. Send me the link, dude.
Yeah, something's up with Google doing it.
Oh, we can see it now.
You can see it now. Okay. Okay, so.
Yeah, there we go. It took a minute.
So Eric Dubé, as you see, no, the Earth, Sun, Moon, stars, and planets are all flat discs. Okay, so people that are listening, we're going to talk a little bit about Eric Dubay perhaps after this. He is, bar none, the #1 flat Earth, I believe, pusher on the planet, if he hasn't been overtaken by John LeBon yet. Let's listen in here.
I'm being followed by a moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow. Leaping and hopping on a moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow. Moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow, moon shadow.
Okay, so we got all that before. I just thought that was a really good presentation on the moon itself. And you don't have to take my word or this person's word or Dr. Astro or anybody in the panel here. You can actually get your own telescope and look at the moon yourself, and you will see the curves, you will see the shadows of the moon as it is closer to the edges, sort of thing, to prove that the moon is indeed not a flat disk.
And it's the easiest thing in the sky to find through a telescope as well.
Yeah, if I can just show real quick my pictures here, I've got something to add just briefly on that.
Yes, absolutely.
So I took a picture. I took 2 pictures of the moon a month apart, and the thing about the moon is, although it's tidally locked to Earth, it also experiences what we call libration, because the orbit isn't perfectly a circle. It's not perfectly circular. So although it rotates once per orbit, it orbits slightly faster at times than other times. When it's closer to the Earth, it's orbiting slightly faster than when it's farther from the Earth. And so because of that, it leads to sort of a desyncing, right, where you actually get to see slightly more than 50% of the Earth, the Moon's surface from Earth. Also, because when you're standing on the Earth, and because the Earth is spherical, when you see the Moon as it's rising, you're at a very different position relative to the Moon than when the Moon is setting. Basically, the Earth has carried you thousands of miles to the other end, right? And so you have what we call diurnal parallax, as well as effects of libration from the Moon's own orbit. You combine all these effects, and you actually can see up to about 59% of the Moon's surface from Earth without ever leaving Earth. And because of that, you can actually construct a stereo image of the Moon. from one month to the other. So you take two pictures of the moon where the phase is the same, but the libration angle is slightly different, and you can use that to create a stereo image. So what I have here is what we call a cross-view stereo image. So if you know how to do a cross-view stereo viewing, you can cross your eyes slightly to get these two images to overlap, and your brain will interpret that and actually decode the 3D information there, essentially. And what you'll actually see is a 3D image of a spherical moon. You can also, if you have trouble with cross-viewing, you can print this off for a stereopticon viewer. I've done that as well, and you can actually view this in one of those old-fashioned stereopticons like they used to have in the 19th century. And you can just view that straight into the stereopticon, and you'll actually see it in 3D, and you can actually see that it is indeed a spherical moon, not a flat moon.
Exactly. And is that, you took those with your own telescope?
I took these with my own telescope, yeah. Quite a few years ago. This was from about 2008, where I was on this kick of imaging various planets and moons in 3D. So I did this with the moon, I've done this with Jupiter, and I've done this with Saturn so far.
You know, and that's often the solution that most of these people could take. That if you're out there and you're starting to fall for some of these things, these PSYOPs, the Earth is flat, you can buy yourself a telescope, invest in it, and start getting into the stars and looking. I mean, it's not a trick, you know. I mean, it's not a trick what you see through a telescope. We're not, it's not like the telescope has some sort of projector in it and it's fooling you. It's all there right for your eyes, so you can look at the moon and prove it just by looking at it that it is indeed round, spherical, just like the Earth.
And I think that brings up another great point that that goes into all of this, and that is that everyone on this panel is an independent researcher, and we all, I can't speak for everyone, but we all love doing what we do, and we put it out there, but by no means is what we're saying the absolute. I think what we're trying to do here is to get people to really start thinking for themselves and take what we've done and then research it yourself further. Prove to yourself what you believe rather than, okay, the news is lying, so now I believe them. It's all up to the individual to take all of the facts that they can find about something and weigh the odds themselves.
Exactly. Applying logic, common sense, and science, most importantly, especially if you're dealing with science, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're dealing with science. Go ahead.
Well, you guys were talking earlier, and I actually had a thermal meltdown on my laptop. You guys were talking about science, and I just want to point out that science, it's very feared by a lot of people, whether it's for spirituality or whatever the case is, but science isn't a dogma. It's not a way of belief. It isn't science says this. Science is a method, and science is a method that we use to figure out the reality around us, and the way we figure that out is by testing what our theory is and then trusting the results we get. And any theory that's out there in science is something that has been tested by many people from many parts of the world at many different times, and all of those conclusions or the results they come up with match, and that's how we have the theory. And the theory, as soon as it's proven wrong once, falls down. That's what science is.
Thank you so much. We need a round of applause for that, because seriously, thank you.
Exactly. I mean, that's why we have airplanes and marines and stuff like that. I mean, because we use science. I mean,
and it's not a matter of who can come up with the most interesting theory and get the most people to believe it. That's not how science functions.
Well, guys, that's right, because if you go back to the whole climate change thing, when they had the IPCC panel, they proved that the data that was used was manipulated, and there's a lot of scientific reports were purposely omitted, and this is how they came up with this report, which was totally bogus, and it was debunked.
Yes.
Because science is often manipulated too by people who have an agenda.
Yeah, and people who have worked on theories their entire life, and even when it's proven wrong to them, they don't want that to be true, right? You've invested so much time in something, you'll do it, and that's probably where a lot of these flat earthers come from, right? Even though the truth is right in front of them and unavoidable, they're not going to change their mind.
I just wanted to take a second to welcome Janelle into the panel. Hi, Janelle. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, great! Glad to have you on the show. Would you like to say anything? I mean, I think you've been following in. Is there anything that you wanted to address dealing with this whole flat Earth?
I can address a couple things. First I want to point out my Nature Conservatory headband. So that's all about the Earth and nature. And I did make a video today. It was a little bit about how nature is sometimes a little more important than science, especially I believe to truthers, because we're not scientists. So why should we be looking at these type of theories and trying to prove them or debunk them in the first place? Because you have a doctor here, that's great. You have scientists, that's awesome. Like I would like to have, or astronomers or whatever you have, because I don't think a lot of the people, you're not experts. So I don't think they should be throwing around the flat Earth theory like they're scientists.
Yeah, I mean, is there one scientist on the planet that actually believes in the flat Earth? Does anybody know this? I mean,
There isn't one. There's none. There's never been one.
Well,
yeah, I looked this up for the show, and from what I can tell, there's not one notable scientist.
I tried to Google. I couldn't find anyone. So I guess it's not important when you're trying to figure out
volumes.
what is, right?
You got to think
science
about
would
that
you
too.
be
I
in,
mean,
right?
nobody is willing to put their name and their good name on the line to defend flat Earth.
Well, Eric Dubé. I mean, what was it that? Does anybody want to say anything about Eric Dubé?
Well, I can say one thing. I don't know if this is completely true, but I heard he woke up 6 months ago. So
Yeah,
people that have been researching, and truth seeking for years, somebody that just woke up 6 months ago all of a sudden becomes an expert and spouts out a theory that now produces 200,000 videos on YouTube. I find it a little bit odd.
Yeah, well, Chad, you got the numbers there. Can you bring the numbers in for what we've been seeing?
Sure, and I'd like other people to kind of confirm this. Do their own research. All you have to do is type in flat Earth into your YouTube browser there, and when it comes up, right now this number changes according to how many's there. But right now it's showing me 173,000 results, and so I say, okay, I want to filter that. Show me how many have been uploaded this year. Oh, 189,000. That's interesting in and of itself. So show me this month. Okay, let's see. Oh, 9,700 videos uploaded this month. Okay, how about this week? 3,610 videos. Now, here's the funny thing, guys. In all the history of YouTube, because this flat Earth theory has been around for hundreds of years, and at one time it was even the accepted theory on the planet. And we moved past that and learned other things. Now, in the whole history of YouTube, no one ever decided to say, hi, upload a video saying, hi, I'm John, I think the world's flat and here's why. Not in the whole history of YouTube, but from today to 6 months ago, we now have about 180,000 videos.
Exactly, Chad. This is why I'm really want to dig and find out where they're getting their funding from. This Flat Earth Society.
Well, the Flat Earth Society website itself has places that you can donate to.
Okay, yeah, well.
Help the cause, folks. Come on.
The UN has organizations that you can donate to, too.
And that brings up the UN flag. I mean, even I don't see how that is proof for the Earth being flat because of a picture depicted on a flag. I think that's just one of the worst arguments I've ever heard.
Well,
I actually have the origin of that flag.
Yeah, and if that's
I found the origin of it.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Sorry, who wants to speak on that?
I found the origin of it. I'll send you the link to the original one that was drawn in 1702. Just a sec.
Okay.
And if the design of the logo is proof of something, then the Earth is the shape of a heart.
Yeah,
that's right. And also, judging by the UN's logo, the Earth has olive leaves around both sides of it.
Oh yeah.
Jeff, I sent the link on Skype to the picture.
Oh, I don't have my Skype open.
But the mere fact.
Okay, I'll open it. Go ahead.
But the mere fact that someone would try and use that as an argument should be a clear indication of manipulation.
Well, look at it this way too. I mean, it's explainable. They wanted to make a flag that showed every country on Earth, and how do you do that? Well, the most accurate way maybe to do it is a flat Earth model to show it on a 2D surface, because you're not going to have a
They
3D
could do it on a
flag.
two-dimensional, desktop map or whatever you want to call it, right? The typical map that you have hanging in your office or classroom or whatever.
Right.
Or they could do it from a top down. They could have done it from the bottom. They could have done it from Antarctica. But then a lot of people say, "What the hell is that thing?" Right?
When I look at that logo, as a designer, I see that someone's given you the perspective from above. This is what you're seeing above.
Right.
And that's what the logo is.
That's what the map. That's what the map is. That's what the original map is. It had nothing to do with a flat Earth.
Well, the thing is, if you're going to show the Earth in a two-dimensional surface, you can't make a 3D flag.
Well, I guess when Jeff throws it up there, I'll just give a little bit of background of it. It was painted in 1702. There's a few different versions of it from the same guy. It's Heinrich Scherer, Scherer, and he was a German Jesuit priest, at which he made this map. And this basically was just his North Pole view of the world. In fact, on that picture, you'll see that the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, as well as the equator, were labeled on it.
Can you guys see it? Are you seeing it? If you're not, I'm going to send it to Press, and Press, could you share it?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, I'll put it on the side here because I don't know what's going on. My computer is just dying. Too much overload, but there you go.
All right. 1 second.
And Justin, if you could maybe repeat that again when he's showing the map.
Yeah, sure.
I can zoom in here a little bit. Right.
It's not the best quality photo, but it's the best one I can find for now.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of them. If you just look up Heinrich, like Heinrich, Scherer, Scherer, you can find a whole bunch of them. Just look up 1702 flat map.
And this was one of the first ones, you were saying?
This is the one where it takes a map of pretty much all the countries, right? Because it was the beginning of the 1700s, and they put it on a view from the North Pole as the center.
And how do we know this is the map that the United Nations is based on?
This is the one that it's based on. You can even tell it's pretty much even the same direction.
And it was written by...
Chris, are you showing it yet?
Yeah.
Can everybody see it?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, I'm the only one that can't, so I'm
Let's not forget, it was written and drawn up by a Jesuit.
A Jesuit, as you can see up in the top, there's a big banner, Societas Iesu. I-E-S, well, V, but it's a U in Latin. Just to the bottom and to the right of that banner, you'll see equator with E-Q-V-A-T-O-R.
Now, there are 33 blocks, I guess you could say, or I don't know what you describe that as, the semi-little circles or whatever. And that's one thing they like to point out. Is there any explanation for why there are 33 on the United Nations?
It almost shows right there. There's the space from the polar circle to the tropic to the equator to the next tropic, and then the tropic to the polar on the other side. There's 4 different areas within that. I forget what it's called geologically.
Mm-hmm.
And on that, we'll do it live, Flat Earth special betting markets. John LeBon brings that up. The United Nations flag is A, based on a flat Earth map, and B, broken into 33 distinct sections. I don't see how 33 distinct sections has anything at all to do with the shape of the Earth.
Well, I guess if you're trying to prove something new, of course we know 33 is a big Masonic number. And of course, yes, Freemasons do have an incredible power over this planet, so maybe they did sneak that in. But that doesn't prove the Earth is flat. That just proves they decided to use an image of the Earth that would show the entire Earth, and they decided to look at it from the North Pole. I mean, unless you've got something mind-blowing, I don't see how that proves anything other than that. It's just an easy way to show all the continents on the planet, basically, aside from, say, Antarctica, which...
So
really...
again, if the moon's right here, and you're in Europe, you're going to see one side, and then if you're over here in Africa, you're going to see the other, but you can never, ever see the dark side of the moon. The Earth isn't flat, folks. Busted.
All right, so I wanted to bring up, maybe Press, you could show this. It's another one from the flat earther named John LeBon, dealing with the 1972 blue marble photo. Does not match Neil deGrasse Tyson's oblate spheroid. Now, I'm going to take a little stab at this, and I'll hand it over to Dr. Astro after. But I know I saw this video ages ago. He says it's not round. It's oblate, right? It's not perfectly round, and that's because the equator, the circumference around the equator is wider than the poles. Right, but you wouldn't notice it from space if you were observing the planet from space because it's not.
That was the first time, Justin.
Oh, are you chatting in here?
No, I'm not chatting in here. I just said be right back because I wanted to go to the toilet and then you came in.
Accidentally got on there.
Here, I'll mute him.
Okay. Yeah. So, Dr. Astro, if I could ask you, and Press, if you could show that image. The blue marble image. This is something that they really like to do.
Is it in the side chat here?
I haven't put it. I
okay.
Didn't even search it. But this is one of the ones that it's. What they claim is that it's the only photo of Earth from space that shows the entire planet.
Okay, so blue. Okay, there's a bunch of them here. I'm not sure which one they want me to, or you want me to. Well, I'll just pick one of them. Whatever. Okay, so let me share my screen here. 1 second. Okay. All right, so you guys see it?
Yeah, that's the blue marble, yeah.
See? Blue marble. So, yeah.
That's it.
All right. So, my thoughts on this, I have not looked into the oblate, is it? Theory that Neil deGrasse Tyson presents or whatever, and again, he could be wrong too. I mean, so
well,
anyway, but
I'd like to get Dr. Astro's opinion on this, dealing with the oblate and the actual image here. I'm sure you know a lot more than we do dealing with this. What do you think about this?
Well, yeah, the Earth is an oblate spheroid, meaning it is slightly wider than it is tall. But what you're seeing there in the blue marble photo, that's not actually the whole Earth. I mean, look at the photo. Look at what you're looking at there. You see Antarctica, and you see up as far north as about Saudi Arabia, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So you're right off the bat, you're not even trying to measure from pole to pole, and that's not proper geodesy, as they say. That's not even right. That's not even wrong.
Wow.
It's just no. Wrong way. No, don't do it that way.
Yeah, you can't even see. You could probably never, unless you created like a 3D multiple image or something, you could probably never see the entire.
Well, I have a question. Are there? I mean, we have a lot of photos from satellites, but satellites are not far enough out to really take the entire Earth, and that's the whole question. This is one of the things that the flat earthers love to go on about over and over again. They say there's only one photo, and it's this one, and from 1972, if I'm not mistaken, and it's a composite where they stitched a bunch of photos together to put this. That's what they claim.
Let's look at that specific one.
Well, I wanted to throw out there throw this out there about the oblate, pear-shaped Neil deGrasse Tyson. The Earth is huge, and I'm looking at someone explain it right here, and I'll just read it. Pear-shaped is a bit of an exaggeration. The amount the Earth varies from an ellipsoid at any point on the Earth's surface is minuscule compared to the size of the Earth, so you wouldn't even see it if you were far enough away to see the whole Earth. So
that's actually what I was gonna say before even Dr. Astro spoke. I was gonna say it's probably so insignificant of a pear-shaped Earth that you wouldn't be able to see it anyway because the Earth's so big.
Yeah, so it's the flattening of the poles is 1/300th of the diameter of the Earth at the equator.
Yeah,
so basically,
24
that's like
miles.
saying if you were looking at a tennis ball, it would be smaller than a pin, than the pointy part of a pin. You wouldn't be able to see where a pin hit it earlier. That if you were to poke a tennis ball with a pin and look at the tennis ball at a distance, you wouldn't be able to see where it hit. And this is even smaller than that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to be able to tell with the naked eye, looking at a picture of Earth, or even looking at Earth from space, that effect even exists. But it does in fact exist.
And it's not the only planet. I believe Jupiter, probably all of them. Dr. Astro, do you know about that? The oblateness of other planets within the solar system?
Yeah, they're all oblate to some extent. And like you were saying, the extent to which Earth is oblate is so minuscule. It's not something you would notice. It's not like it's visibly squashed or anything. It's a very small amount. So it's not something that is easily noticed by simply looking at a picture. But non-spherical gravity does have important effects for satellites orbiting Earth, because the mass of Earth is not evenly distributed in a sphere, and because the oblate shape of Earth. So if you don't account for those effects, you're going to notice quite noticeable deviations for your satellite than the real Earth. And that's actually how proper geodesy is done, and how we determine the shape and mass distribution of Earth is the satellites orbiting. It's not just about taking pictures. It's about analyzing the orbits themselves.
Exactly. It's called doing science, right?
Exactly.
Hard science, right? And that's the thing that I think a lot of conspiracy theorists tend to be lazy researchers. I know I've fallen into that trap before, because you get excited about something and you want whatever, you're looking for anything that you can find that will help fit that narrative, and then you easily discard anything that might come in and conflict with it, or turn it upside down, sort of thing. So I think that's one of the things that happens often in the sort of conspiracy realm, dealing with things, and I think that's what we have dealing with flat Earth, and that's why we don't have any scientists in the world that support flat Earth. And these are the people, especially if we're talking astrophysicists, right, astronomers. I mean, this is what these people do for a living. This is their this is their bread and butter. They eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff, and you're going to go and tell them that they don't know what they're doing, that all the science, all the empirical science that they employ every day, all the experiments from all their schooling, everything is scripted, and it's all a big lie, and that they're all together. I mean, it's like, Dr. Astro, if say NASA is fake and everything NASA does is fake, how many people would have to be involved in that kind of a cover-up?
Oh my God! I mean, that's virtually everyone. I mean, except for maybe the guy sweeping the floor. You're talking thousands upon thousands of people, and it's not even like it's limited to NASA. It's not like NASA has the monopoly on the sky or even satellite tracking. You can find some really pro satellite trackers who have nothing to do with NASA, and in fact, NASA, well, maybe not so much NASA, but certainly the Air Force and the military probably have a dim view of them to begin with, because they track their classified satellites. I believe his name's Ted Moulton or something. He tracks spy satellites all the time. In fact, he runs a group of amateur astronomers whose sole purpose is pretty much to track spy satellites with classified orbits. So the government doesn't even tell them where the satellite is. And in fact, in some cases, they'll flat out lie about where the satellite is. These guys will find it anyway and track it on their own. Well, if they were wrong about the non-spherical nature of Earth, about the oblate nature of Earth, then their satellite tracking is not going to work so well. They're going to have great difficulty accurately tracking these satellites over time, because they're doing this all on their own. They're actually calculating these satellites' orbit de novo without any input from the government, saying, okay, I see that satellite up there in the sky. I can see its orbit. I can trace it back to that launch that occurred on Wednesday, and I can continue to follow it for months and years into the future and I can continue to track it and update the orbit. And the only reason you can do that with accuracy is because you have some at least roughly good idea about the shape of the Earth.
Exactly.
And there's a slew of things that require that kind of expertise. When I point out that people need to speak with pilots, some people will say, oh, you're appeal to authority. Appeal to authority. No, it's not appeal to authority. It's that if you're a pilot and you're using and your navigation system is based on the wrong model of Earth, then it is not possible for you to end up where it says on the ticket, especially on time. And this happens without fail 102,465 times per day, guys.
I mean, I don't know. It's like I'm sad that we had to have to do this show. I really am, but I want to continue here, and I don't know if you guys mind here. I want to move on to the Coriolis effect.
Well, I just one thing I just want to mention though, just before, because I have that lined up for sure. Dealing with what Chad just said, dealing with pilots, just because I checked out this, was researching it, and I wanted to see dealing with pilots what it would take to see the curvature of the Earth. Now, this is very important because people, this is one of the big, stumbling blocks or whatever that prevent people from believing that the Earth is a spheroid, right? Is that you can't see the horizon, or you can't see the curvature of the Earth. The naked eye can't make it out. And this is one of the things that flat earthers like to really point out is that, we talked about, of course, the ships disappearing over the horizon of the sea and stuff like that. But without that sort of perspective, without being able to use a ship or something like that, you cannot make out the horizon. Now, even up in a plane, if the average plane's about 35,000 feet, now maybe if you're in the cockpit, you might, if it's broad enough the view. But from what I found out, they said that if you're up on a Concorde, of course they stopped using Concordes because the Concordes used to fly, I think, at 45,000 feet, if I'm mistaken, right? They flew faster than any other planes, right? It was the France to New York City sort of special, right? And those planes, you could see the curvature of the Earth. In fact, I got many photos that I got off the internet from Concorde flights, and you could make out the curve. Just barely, but make it out. What they said ideally was at 75,000 feet. And there's not too many aircraft that can go that high. It's very specialized type aircraft that can reach those kind of heights. But at that height, that's when you can start to make out the curvature of the Earth. And that, I think, I want people to understand how incredibly massive the planet is. I mean, not next to the sun. Next to the sun, it's like it's a tiny little dot, right? But I mean, for us on the planet, I mean, we are, we're like, it's like a molecule or something next to a beach ball or something, right? I mean, we can't. That's what we have to understand is our planet is so absolutely massive. So you really need to get up really high in order to really be able to see the curvature of the Earth with the naked eye. And that's why you can see it through satellite pictures and through planes that can go that high, and there are videos on YouTube that you can see it. There are other resources all over the internet that show photographs dealing, say, with the Concorde planes, which are now no longer in use. But yes, if you do get up high enough, you will be able to make it out. And I was conversing with some pilots dealing with this, and they would say yes, if they were up above 40,000 feet, they would be able to see it, just barely, but they'd have to have that full vision. You need like a wide sort of angle. You can't just look through a little window sort of thing, right? You need a bigger sort of, so from a cockpit, for instance. So I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything with regards to that.
Well, in 1935, oh, you want to go ahead?
No, go on. That's all right.
Oh, I was just going to say in 1935, I did an article on this, and I'm just reading through it right now.
You did it in 1935?
Yeah, I did the article in 35. This is how long this hoax has been going on.
Oh, you're an old man.
Captains Albert Stevens and Orville Anderson of the U.S. Army went up in an air balloon, and they had to go up 72,000 feet to barely start seeing the curvature of the Earth. But those were the first photos ever taken to actually show the curvature of the Earth. So, I mean, think about how high that is. That goes into what Jeff was saying, 72.3 thousand feet.
Yeah, I mean, that's twice as high as the average airplane goes when you're up in a plane, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it. I mean, Chad, did you want to add to that?
Just the fact that when we're up in a plane, the mere fact that there is a visible horizon shows you the curvature of the Earth. Because if it was truly an infinite plane that kept extending out, you would not see it disappear below the horizon.
Exactly. So, I guess, Press, if you want to start with the Coriolis effect, I think this is another very smoking gun when it comes to proving the Earth is a sphere.
Sure. So let me just share screen here real quick, and I gotta make sure I click on the right tab here. Let me see. All right. So this is a brief video explaining the Coriolis effect and how it works, and then I want to show this video of a sniper basically attesting and showing how you have to incorporate the Coriolis effect into your long range. I believe it's like 1,000 yards and longer. You got to start incorporating the Coriolis effect into the shot. So I'll just play this video real quick in the beginning.
If you've ever watched the news during a hurricane or wintertime nor'easter, you've probably noticed that big storms spin over time as they travel. In the northern hemisphere, they spin counterclockwise. But if you were watching a storm in the southern hemisphere, you'd see it spinning clockwise. Why do storms spin in different directions depending on their location?
So do toilets.
Why do they spin in the first place? A storm's rotation is due to something called the Coriolis effect, which is a phenomenon that causes fluids like water and air to curve as they travel across or above Earth's surface.
One thing I want to say, I heard somebody mention sort of toilets.
Yeah, that was
That's actually somewhat of a myth because it actually, it's if you had sort of the perfect designed toilet, it would do that, but all toilets are different, and you can have toilets spin in let's say,
yeah, depending which way the direction is when you're but yeah, if it's perfect, yeah, it will.
Yeah, exactly, in general, but it's technically you're right, but in general it's sort of a myth. But just moving on here.
Here's the basic idea. Earth is constantly spinning around its axis from west to east. But because Earth is a sphere and wider in the middle, points on the equator are actually spinning faster around the axis than points near the poles. So imagine you were standing in Texas and had a magic paper airplane that could travel hundreds of miles. If you threw your airplane directly northward, you might think it would land straight north, maybe somewhere in Nebraska. But Texas is actually spinning around Earth's axis faster than Nebraska is, because it's closer to the equator. That means that the paper airplane is spinning faster as well, and when you throw it, that spinning momentum is conserved. So if you threw your paper airplane in a straight line toward the north, it would land somewhere to the right of Nebraska, maybe in Delaware. So from your point of view in Texas, the plane would have taken a curved path to the right. The opposite would happen in the southern hemisphere. An object traveling from the equator to the south would get deflected to the left. So what does this have to do with hurricane spinning? Well, at the center of every hurricane is an area of very low pressure. As a result, the high-pressure air surrounding the center or eye of a storm is constantly rushing toward the low-pressure void in the middle. But because of the Coriolis effect, the air rushing toward the center is deflected off course. In the northern hemisphere, the volumes of air on all sides of the eye keep getting tugged slightly to the right. The air keeps trying to make its way to the middle and keeps getting deflected, causing the entire system to spin in a counterclockwise direction. In the southern hemisphere, where the Coriolis effect pulls air to the left, the opposite happens. Storms spin around the eye in a clockwise manner.
And there you go. There's that. And you know, I think it's something. This is something you can test on your own. All you need to do is buy a sniper rifle. Of course, it's expensive. You can do it though, and I'm sure there's other ways you could do it. I just haven't looked into it enough. It is a very slight force, or it's a slight effect in comparison to how big we are or how small we are, or whatever. So it doesn't affect normal things like throwing a baseball. I guess it does to some degree, but it's virtually unnoticeable. So let's, if you want, I'll just play this video of a professional gun enthusiast talking about how you have to incorporate the Coriolis effect into your sniper rifle shots. And this is something well known among snipers in the Marines and their spotters. And
every sniper on the planet has to learn this.
Yeah,
we have a couple of experts here dealing with that with Chad and Rob, so I'm sure they'll chime in right after.
Yeah, sure.
If they don't know it, then they're not snipers; they're missers.
You're fired.
Yeah, busted. All right, let's play it. Hold on, let me turn up the volume.
Or a ballistic compensator like we use on our systems. We field hundreds of calls a month where guys cannot re-verify their data once they've shot it one day and go out and try to return the same data, let's say a week later. And one of the common issues that we see is the Coriolis effect. And what guys are not doing is taking into account the effect that this can have on your shooting at longer ranges. Now, real quick, let's kind of just explain the Coriolis effect in layman's terms. The Coriolis effect is the effect that when the bullet leaves the barrel of the gun, it is actually leaving the surface of the earth. So as the bullet leaves the barrel of the gun, the earth is still rotating, and the bullet is not rotating with the earth. So the earth will actually rotate out from underneath of the bullet while it is in flight. So as the earth rotates, it actually rotates from the west to the east. So what that's going to do to our targets is if you're shooting west, your target's going to rotate up and towards us, which is going to cause the bullets to hit lower. And if you're facing east, the target's going to be dropping and slightly moving away, which is going to cause the hits to be higher. Now, why this is important is out to 1,000 yards, you could have almost a full minute of correction due to Coriolis effect, depending on which direction you sighted in your zero. Now, to show you guys just how much effect there's going to be, we're going to put on a little shooting demonstration here. I've got targets east or west and east of us, exactly 1,000 yards in each direction. So what we're going to do to prove this Coriolis effect on our rifle here is we're going to shoot it out to 1,000 to the west, and we're going to shoot it to 1,000 to the east, and we're going to measure the difference in those group centers. And hopefully it's going to show you guys that this kind of error can lead to bigger errors in your drop data.
Product placement.
All right, got 3 hits on the steel down there. We're going to switch directions, switch the bents over, and we're going to shoot east now. All right, we got 3 more hits on this steel down here. Now we're going to rack up all our gear. We're going to go check these out, measure them up, show you the results. All right, we've made it down to our target that we shot at the west. This is our west target here. And as you can see, they've all dropped in quite low. We've got 8 inches from center to the center of the group, which is a little lower than we expected, but we were dealing with some pretty stiff mirage. So we got a nice little group here. We're going to pack up this target and head down to our target that we shot to the east, and we'll compare the 2 groups and show you the difference of just switching directions. That's all we did. We switched from west to east. All right, we've made it down to our target on the east target now, and as you can see, they're not quite too high. We've got about 3 inches, maybe 3.5 to the center of the group above bullseye. So if we compare this to our other target, we're 3 inches high here, we're 8 inches low there. That's 11 inches, just over a minute of difference between just shooting from the west to the east. Now, how does this affect you and your data? 1 minute with this 7 LRM that we're shooting at 1,000 yards is worth 70 feet per second if you were trying to develop drop data. And that could make huge differences in your drop data and your custom turret if you were to actually figure the data shooting east and west. So the tip today is always do your data either north and south. That will eliminate your Coriolis up and down, or know how much effect that has on it and take that into account on your ballistic data.
Busted. Yeah, and there you go. And here's the thing: it can be tested on machines too. And I'm sure there's a video on here that tested on a machine or whatever. But this is just some average Joe just showing you what this is. And that's what I really want to get across to people is that you don't have to go to frickin' NASA to prove the Earth is round. It's like it's just
the rest of the world is functioning on that scientific reality, right? And has to compensate, whether it's airplanes or surveyors or marksmen. It's just a reality, right?
I mean, here's the thing, and you might as well go watch CNN and buy into Sandy Hook and buy into the Boston bombing and go buy into the 9/11 official story, because you're just as deceived as any of these flat earthers. And it should be something that, and here's what it is. People say, let people believe what they want to believe. Okay, well, why don't we just stop doing what we're doing and let people believe the official story of 9/11? Let's just let them believe, that the Sandy Hook was a real event. Let's let them believe that Bruce Jenner isn't a PSYOP or whatever. It's like this is what we do. We try to we convey truths, what we believe are truths.
I just wanted to ask our marksmen here, Chad and Rob, if you guys had anything you wanted to add dealing with the Coriolis effect.
The video is pretty accurate. I mean, you don't really have to elaborate too much on that. It's
Exactly. And the mere fact that they can repeat the results using that model shows that the model is indeed correct.
Yeah, and I mean it explains, of course, the hurricanes and all that, right? I mean, weather patterns and so much else, and it's just more and more proof. I mean, I don't know how much proof people need.
Well, maybe now's a good time to pose the question: why are there so many people, given the evidence available to us, why are there so many people who suddenly believe this, or are claiming to?
Yeah, I would take a few guesses. I would say, one, there's a PSYOP going on that is being used to against the truth movement, because the truth movement has been successful in exposing things like Sandy Hook and Ebola and stuff like that. That's something that they're going to come in and try to mess up. And one of the ways that they're going to do that is obviously by planting moles and planting people within the movement and trying to push false narratives, get people to buy into false narratives. And I don't know where the echo is coming from. It might be me.
Yeah,
like it's you know, the best way to control the opposition is to run it. If you can get in there and you can establish people to take a movement in a certain direction, then you're going to have a lot of success in making it ineffective, essentially. When you have everyone worried about whether or not the Earth is flat, when we have all the proof in the world to prove that it is a sphere, and no proof whatsoever, not even a hint of proof to prove that it is flat, and yet so many people buy into it. Now, the people that buy into it, I don't blame them. I understand. I mean, we're not out to insult you or anything like that. It's not your fault. We're just trying to help you understand that there is a deception that is occurring. And this is a really obvious one, and that's why we still have more elements of this thing to cover. But this is a very important PSYOP, because it really, when we think about it, what is one of the biggest insults? If we could say, like, when they use language semantics, right? When they're using, when they say conspiracy theorists, right? That's a loaded term. So if you go into a dinner party and you're with a bunch of people you never met before, and you say, well, I'm a conspiracy theorist, and then the automatic sort of reaction is, well, there's a tinfoil hat wearing lunatic who thinks, you know, aliens run the government, whatever else, right?
Well, no, here's the thing, and you're probably about to say this, but
yeah, I'm about to say it. Can I say it?
What is? Yeah, say it.
Just let me finish and you come in. One of the big terms that is used is flat earthers. Even Obama used it recently in a speech where he said, you know, we're not going to turn this into a flat earth debate. There's many articles that have come up recently. Chrissy showed one the other day in which they were mocking, you know, people of a certain belief as flat earthers. It's a meme that they can use quickly, and it's something that people, like most people, you know, will take the globe Earth. I mean, they'll take it, and without doing the work, just because they've been drilled and, you know, through schooling and everything, and, you know, you're just not going to question it, right? And I think you should question everything. So here we are. We came today. We came to question everything. We want to present everything that the flat earthers are presenting as evidence and debunk it all, and that's what we've been doing. So yeah, you question it, you get to it, you know, you hit all the points, and you show that it's not a fact. In fact, it's the opposite. The Earth is round. The term flat earther, you can look at it as like the term conspiracy theorist, right? Or like they've been using the Illuminati term, Illuminati and stuff like that. They're loading these terms up in order to group all kinds of people together who are part of the alternative sort of media, or you know, the truther scene, or whatever you want to say, right? And I think that this is a PSYOP against truthers. And I don't believe that everybody that's pushing flat Earth is part of the PSYOP. I think some people genuinely do believe it. I certainly don't think everybody that believes in flat Earth is part of a PSYOP. But I think a lot of people are getting fooled by this whole meme. And you know, it's a powerful meme in the sense that if you believe the Earth is flat, then nothing is real. I mean, nothing that you've been taught is real. None of history is real. You know, nothing is real. I mean, none of science is real. Throughout chemistry, right? Throughout the periodic table, throughout everything, because none of it's real. Because, you know, I mean, if the Earth is flat, then they're lying to us about everything, right?
And even our perception that they believed it in the medieval times, like that they believed the Earth was flat, and then even before that, even after that, like that is a myth in itself. Like since like 300 AD, like there's never been like a generally concepted theory of anything other than a spherical globe.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I want to just say this. Even the term, like if you go to a dinner party, right, and you're meeting a bunch of new people, none of them are awake, let's say, or whatever, to the New World Order. Now you can say all these things. You could say, I'm a conspiracy theorist. You could say I'm a Sandy Hook truther, a 9/11 truther. You could say you believe in aliens. You could say you could even say you believe in giants or Sasquatch or Bigfoot or dwarfs or fairies, and they'll look at you kind of funny. But flat Earth, they'll give you a big old fat what?
Yeah, it's basically like trying to say that air isn't real. It's just way out there.
It's like, what's the most ridiculous thing we can slap on the conspiracy narrative? What's the most ridiculous thing we can slap on this demographic? Flat Earth.
And I want to address the other side of it too, because yes, on its surface, when you first hear someone tell you that, you think clearly they're joking, or there's some serious issues going on here. And then when you actually look into what they're claiming and how they're presenting it in a clever way, there were some things I couldn't answer. Why do the planes fly east and west instead of over the poles? How do you measure curvature of Earth? That kind of stuff I didn't know the answer to. And so because of that, it gave credence to the claim that, maybe they're right. But it turns out they're not, because I could just call the flight instructor and ask them and get my questions answered real quick and understand how it really works. But I just want people to understand that, yes, it sounds silly on the surface, but if you spend the time to look at any of the material being put out there, it's being done in a very creative way. It does not sound silly. These people sound credible, and they sound like they're coming across with a point, but it's based on the audience not knowing the correct answer to all the stuff they keep throwing out there, like, well, why does the planes, if Earth is rotating at 1,000 miles per hour and a plane is traveling with the spin of Earth at 550 miles per hour, how can the plane ever reach its destination? See, I mean, this is what they're putting out to people, and even when I was asked that question, I thought, I don't know the answer to that. I do not know, and that's why I called a pilot and understand that, airspeed is different, following barometric pressure. Okay, I get it, But again, because they're playing this game, presenting this in a very clever way and making it dependent on the audience not knowing any of the answers to the questions they're asking. Yeah.
They're preying upon people's lack of knowledge. I don't want to say ignorance because I don't want to insult people.
Well, that's exactly what ignorant means. It just means
it's right, and it's not insulting, by the way.
It's not insulting.
I'm ignorant of how to change your fuel injectors or whatever if those are on cars. You know what I'm saying? If you ask me that, I say call a mechanic. I don't know.
Jeff, you got some skills in the chat there saying, well, why don't you have a real debate with flat earthers then?
Well, we discussed that in the intro. Where I said
exactly.
It's not going to be a debate. And I said that I would consider hosting a debate with flat earthers in the future, but that this particular show was not about that. That's why we didn't bring the flat earthers in here. We didn't want to turn this into a whole tit-for-tat.
It'd be a big freaking circus. That's what I've been trying to tell them.
Yeah,
I think they've had enough airtime as well. By the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there any other major elements of this flat Earth conspiracy that we haven't yet discussed? Chad or Olin or Dr. Astro, any of you guys know of any of the other major sort of claims that they make? Just
no,
so that
we've actually gone over things that you guys have brought up that I hadn't even been aware that were part of it so far. So,
Jeff, you want to play this statement by the founder?
You know who I'd love to? I don't know if there's room, but all right. One of the things flat earthers say is that gravity doesn't exist. That there's just an innate up and an innate down. And
I forget about Newton, right?
I actually
forget about him.
This I found fascinating, actually, and I was like, "That's interesting." And it's fun to entertain, the idea,
Well, they have an idea that the flat Earth is moving up at a certain speed, right?
Yes.
That creates that.
That's why we stick to the surface, they say, is because the Earth is constantly moving through space.
Well, you better stay away from the edges then, eh?
I don't know if you guys.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna go ahead. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know. You can actually measure gravity in your own basement if you have a basement or some sufficiently isolated place. You could build your own torsion balance using pretty simple household materials, including a ladder, some styrofoam, some string, and some heavy weights. I'll post the link in the Hangout chat here. I don't know if any of you guys can pull it up on your screen and share this.
Yeah, press.
Yeah, I got it right here. One sec.
It's a pretty clever little web page called Bending Space-Time in the Basement, and this guy used some lead weights and some metal balls, and even used granite at one point I think it was granite as a substitute. Towards the end there with the Archimedes apparatus, basically trying to demonstrate that even using really old-fashioned materials that you could build a torsion balance and prove that gravity exists between ordinary household objects.
Interesting. Yeah, and it's just one of those things. If you don't incorporate gravity, how do you explain everything else? In the sky, and there's equations for this too. So I mean, and who has a really interesting perspective on gravity is Mr. Grimm. That's who I was going to say. Maybe we should.
Yeah, I'm going to send Mr. Grimm an invite. I know he wanted to come in, so I asked Chrissy. I don't know if she got that message, but Mr. Grimm, if you're out there, I'll try to hit you up right now.
Yeah. So
well, I mean, it's crazy what people will believe when you like put focus and time and everything into it. I mean, for example, like the Mormon Church, right? They do not have one piece of evidence that ever proves any of their facts or any of their claims that they've ever made. There's not one piece of evidence, like outside of just their own circular reasoning, that they can ever prove. Nothing. Like, there's nothing. No archaeological, no linguistic, no genealogical, nothing. But they still have like a theology and a history and an archaeology department that they spend in their like big school called Brigham Young University. And they spend millions of dollars a year, and they have like hundreds of staff that are devoted to proving the church true. But they don't have any evidence. So when you go and debate these guys, it's very, very, very polished rhetoric. And I'm talking about, this is stuff that, like, I know a lot about Mormonism. But no matter what, like, if I meet an intelligent Mormon, they will always have some thesis that they developed from university that they just throw at me. You know what I mean? Or somebody else's theses. And it's basically no evidence based on it, but if they have the time and the resources and the intelligence to polish their argument properly, they don't need evidence to win an argument to an unprejudiced or ignorant debate or audience.
Are you,
know
suggesting?
what I mean?
Wait. Are you suggesting that John LeBon is a Mormon?
No, he's got that beard. He's got that shit going on, man. They'd kick him out. He'd be a shitty Mormon. He's drunk half the time. I mean, come on.
Poor John.
It's a shitty. He is not getting his temple recommend to the Mormon temple.
So, do you want to show that, press, what Dr. Astro had presented there?
I was just showing it. Did you guys see it?
See, I wasn't looking. I was trying to make a message. And everything is going at the speed of a snail here with me. Good. I don't know. Firefox is messing up with me. But yes. So we pretty much covered all the bases dealing with this, and we've seen this before. I mean, I could bring up an example about how people will believe in things based on no evidence whatsoever. A good example would be Bigfoot, for instance. Now, Bigfoot, it was a video, I believe, from the early 70s that a couple brothers had made. I don't know. I can't remember the entire full story. But, like, if you zoomed in, I believe you could see the watch on the Bigfoot costume sort of thing. But, somebody just, it was just a dozen frames or something, a Bigfoot walking across, a part of a forest, a stretch of forest that was cleared. And because of that, since then, there has been, I believe, hundreds of thousands of Bigfoot sightings. But before that, there was almost nothing.
Are you talking about the Patterson film?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's the Patterson film. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Here's the thing, though, too. You can't necessarily disprove Bigfoot doesn't exist. You can't necessarily disprove Bigfoot, the existence of Bigfoot or the existence of dwarfs or what. You can't disprove that. This you can disprove. You can disprove the Earth is flat. So that's all. That it's in a whole other category. You can't disprove that aliens exist. You can't disprove all these things. But there are certain things like flat Earth we can disprove with clear, obvious, concrete, not irrefutable evidence observable scientific evidence. It's not even, I don't even call it scientific, common sense. And, you know, it's like, whatever, you know?
Exactly. But that's it's one of those things where you know, if something, like, people want to believe, it's like aliens, right? UFOs. You know, like a lot of the early UFO photos have been debunked as like, you know, just you know, frisbees and shit like that, things that people threw up in the air and took a photo of. But yet, because people want to believe in magic, they want to believe in you know, aliens, they want to believe in all this stuff, they don't want to use any sort of science to come to any proof dealing with these things. They just want to believe. So I think there is a very strong sort of urge to believe that you know, everything's a lie, and that the world is much different than they let us believe, and that we really are in a matrix, in a bubble, and you know, there's a lot of proof to support it. And when you get into those sort of areas, those circles, then you get into the group think, you get into the tunnel vision, you cut out everything that would counteract or dispel it. You end up hanging around with people that will believe everything, that the same things that you believe. I mean, this happens in the truther community as well. It's something we have to guard ourselves against, especially when we're covering events. When we look at events and we try to break down events, like it might be Sandy Hook or Ottawa, for instance, you know, we're trying to find the things in the corporate media that absolutely are not explainable. The lies, for instance, we could say the Ottawa shooting, the reporter from CBC pointing to the 9 bullet holes, which we proved 100% were there in a Google Earth image. You could go look at it yourself from 2013. So they pointed to Masonic marks that they had left on the wall when they removed the plaque as evidence of a gunfight. That is solid, concrete proof that they had pulled off a hoax, and we had several other things. That is how, you know, you have to be able to approach these things. You have to be able to really second guess yourself, but apply logic, apply science whenever you can, absolutely, because we cannot turn our backs on science. If you turn your back on science, if you think science is bullshit, turn off your computer right now. Throw away your refrigerator. You know, don't ever watch television, and go live in the woods and see how long you last. Right? I mean, there's a reason why the world has advanced the way it has. I know we haven't advanced as emotional or intellectual beings the way our technology is advanced, but we certainly have advanced technologically. Nobody could deny that. You know, it is at the point now where we go back and we watch the James Bond movies from the '60s and we laugh our asses off. You know,
what type of shit is that? Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, it's really something. So science has... Sorry? Yeah?
I was just going to say, to build on that point, we're talking about modern science with electronics and technology like that, but like when we're talking about the shape of the Earth, we've been studying the stars for thousands of years, okay? And for literally over 2,000 years now, it has been agreed upon by those astronomers and those star trackers that there's no way around it. The Earth must be round for us to be seeing the stars and the planets and the sun and the moon behave in the way they do, and to make the patterns that they do year by year around the Earth and in our sky. So this is nothing new.
Exactly. As I said in the intro there, it's the very first thing. I mean, whenever, you know, I mean, a lot of people here I know don't believe in evolution. I totally believe in evolution, okay? So but what made, in my opinion, what made humanity, our Homo sapiens sapiens, whatever you want to call us, stand out from all the other hominids that might have that did exist at different points in the Earth, was that we had the ability to imagine things. It was our imagination, our brain patterns that allowed us to think, well, what could be on the other side of that ridge or that mountain or that river or whatever, right? And so ever since we had that ability, we've been looking up at the stars every night. I mean, we didn't sit around and watch television or baseball or anything, right? Yeah. We sat around a fire and we looked up at the stars. And how long does it take to look up at the stars with the naked eye to see them, you know, flashing and some of them moving, and then start to map out those things and watch them and then pass that knowledge on and all that? It's the most natural thing that...
Yeah, and the word planet's etymology means wanderer. Yes. They named it after something that didn't move like the other stars.
Yeah, and back then, I mean, today with light pollution in the cities and everywhere we go, we are completely robbed of what's possible for us to see in the sky. So back 1,000 years ago, just imagine the show that they were seeing of the stars. They saw everything. It would be much easier to track and much easier to compute over the years.
Exactly. I want to welcome Mr. Grimm to the show. How are you doing there, friend?
All right. Thanks for the warm welcome. I felt that yeah, maybe I should start off with a quick apology before I could expect people that might want to take me seriously here. You know what I'm saying? So because I'm not here to like fuck with your show, mess with your show, excuse me, or anything. So what I'm saying is I apologize because I might have jumped the gun. You were talking about comfort bias a minute ago, and confirmation bias basically. Even you didn't say confirmation bias, but looking for when you find things that are relatively to the things that you've been looking at and all that. Then when I looked at your stuff the other day, it was just like I was listening to myself talk. You know what I mean? And it was suspect because of course I'm suspicious of everything.
Oh, I did listen to your appearance on the John LeBon show, and I was quite impressed. Especially with the reaction that you caused, the ripples that you caused, because you stepped into the flat Earth PSYOP den there, and basically
alone too, didn't I? I walked in there with like all I had was a hope and a prayer, and I'm not even religious, so let's do this shit. I walked in there and just let him do his thing on me, you know what I mean? And it completely, it was we don't have to do that show here, but yeah, it was. Thank you.
Yeah, so I mean, are you seeing this as a PSYOP as well? I mean, are you seeing?
Yeah, definitely. But I don't think all the players are involved as a PSYOP because it's like NASA. It's compartmentalization. Not everyone's going to know the secret. They just have their box to work on. Everyone gets their little box.
I think that also, I mean, I think that they set up people to counteract it as well. I mean, I think that it's something that they're going to push, but they might look at shows like this, the momentum swing, and they might all of a sudden shift quickly to something else, seeing that this is running out of steam. But I think that
if they're good controlled opposition managers, they already have both sides set up. If they're good controlled opposition, then they already have the both sides set up.
Very true. That's right. Everyone knows. That's how that works. You know, they don't even let the thought of opposition come out to the public yet until the control is already in place.
And of course, that if you have people placed on both sides, then you still have that argument that is perpetuating itself, because then you have the arguments, and then you have the drama, and then you have all this, and that's what we're seeing within this truther community is drama like crazy, right?
Yeah.
And all this fighting, when really, yes, we should be getting together like we are tonight and discussing these things with like rational, logical thinking, scientific sort of human beings, and that we're not afraid of the truth, even if the truth is going to counteract what we believe. You shouldn't be afraid of it.
Yeah, and another point to build on what you're saying is a lot of times we have to be careful about grouping ideas together and naming it and labeling it, because like I might not agree that NASA's pictures are real, because I don't believe they're real of Earth. But that doesn't mean that I'm jumping to the assertion that the Earth is flat. Because I think that another avenue, because I have the lesser viewed perspective, and being I deal with vacuums and electricity and plasma, and I've done it since I was 17 for a living, that I could be a guy that we could hear talk about this kind of stuff. But there's no thrust in a vacuum. You can't push off anything. There's the Joule-Thomson effect. No work being done when gas escapes.
Oh, okay. No, wrong.
Well, why don't we talk about what you said about NASA photos being fake? I don't get that.
No, I'm not here to argue with you, man. I'm just saying, just look up the Joule-Thomson effect. I'm not making this stuff up. The kinetic theory of gas expansion in a vacuum.
I'm aware of gas expansion.
I know. Just look it up.
I'm
not here today to argue with you. You're turning this into a me and you thing, just like we just discussed we weren't going to try and do. Right?
Okay.
We still have more points. I'm still apologizing, really.
Grimm and Co., why don't we just stick with flat Earth, because that's what this topic is about, and leave everything else for another show.
My point was jumbling issues and community not paying attention. See what he...
Thomson Joule effect doesn't apply to a rocket in a vacuum, because a rocket in a vacuum is not a closed system. There. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, I think that could be a discussion for a different show for sure. That's why I want to avoid all the Apollo missions and all that stuff.
Yeah, okay.
That's something I don't want to talk about. I mean,
I wasn't trying to, yeah.
really, all I want to talk about is the real shape of the Earth.
I think.
Okay.
I think you
I was
brought
trying
up a really good point right there about this is a huge part of this flat Earth theory is that all the pictures that NASA shows you are fake, and that's not the case at all. NASA, when they're taking pictures from satellites, they take them over like the span of maybe a few months, maybe over the span of a few hours, maybe over the span of a few days, and to give you the best resolution of that planet, be it Earth or Jupiter or the Moon or whatever. They combine those pictures so you get the best viewpoint of it. They're not faking the pictures of
I didn't
Earth.
say those. See, now we made another assertion on accident, and I didn't say the other planets. I said of Earth.
Well, maybe not you.
I said of
maybe
Earth
not you.
because of the atmosphere. They cannot
maybe not you, but this is a big part of this theory right here. That the pictures
I said of Earth anyway. I know, but to be
they are
clear,
edited, but they're not fake.
That's a meme.
that makes my point exactly. Because if one person believes in one aspect, he all of a sudden is people around him assume that he believes in all of these other things, and that's the very same point I'm trying to make right now. You guys both just did that, because that's our problem.
No, I'm not talking about
We're
you
making
at
too
all.
many assertions on accident to each other.
No,
because
he wasn't. He was talking about the public in general. That's what we were talking about.
I'm talking about the theory that we've been talking about for the past few hours. That has absolutely nothing to do with you. You can believe anything that you want about NASA, but a big part of this flat Earth theory is that a lot of the videos are trying to prove it by saying all of the pictures you're seeing of Earth from NASA are fake. Well, NASA's not the only space program in the world, and it's not the only space program in the world to take pictures of
Right.
Earth.
No one ever look. NASA's the only one that's ever taken pictures of Earth from outer space. Supposedly pictures of Earth from outer space. Everyone else can see the other planets from Earth. That's my point. To get away from Earth and take a picture of Earth from outer space is why you have CGI Earth.
So what are you proposing then? What are they? Are they cartoons? Are
Otherwise,
they
why
animations?
wouldn't
What
there
are we
be?
looking at?
Yes, they really are CGI pictures.
Okay,
they're
hang on.
well, that's all fake then.
Photos of Earth.
Okay, hang on. I want to bring in Dr. Astro
hang on.
here. What did you want to say, Doctor?
Okay. I think I know what he's
doctor
where
in?
he's coming from.
Because we're calling you doctor for what reason?
Well, we
I
call
have a
you Grim.
PhD.
No, I mean I'm just saying Mr. Grimm is. I'm not saying I'm a doctor in anything.
Well, some people call me Lord Supreme Commander, so I think it's we all have our.
I just wanted to bring that point up because I mean when you call yourself doctor and people are listening to you, it assumes some sort of I studied,
Well, I did. I have.
Well, he's an astronomer.
I know. Look, I'm not.
Would you like me to go to my
There
bedroom?
you go. He's got
That way it's not like I'm talking against some kind of a real doctor. But go ahead.
Well, no,
Okay.
he's saying he is a doctor because he has a PhD, but
Yeah, so technically he is a doctor.
Yeah, he's a doctor. That's
okay,
what I was
so-
asking.
Yeah, and look. Okay, let's give Dr. Astro a chance to respond to what he wanted to say here.
Okay, the Thomson-Joule effect only applies to a closed system where you have a closed box. It does no work when you have, say, air in one side of a chamber and a vacuum on the other and you release the chamber. It does no work because it's a closed system. But a rocket is not a closed system by its nature. It is an
Space
open
is
system.
not a closed system. Vacuum
rocket
space
is
is not a closed system.
You're not moving space. You're moving the rocket.
You understand what you just said, right?
Yes, I understand what I just said. You're not moving space. You're not moving the universe. You're moving the rocket. If you
Not moving anything.
You are. You're moving the rocket because the rocket itself is not a closed system.
Okay, you're not moving anything. Think about it for a second. You need to throw. Okay, now let's change direction. Same principle, right? Oh, how are we going to change direction? There's no atmosphere.
You turn the rocket around. You thrust the other way.
That thrust doesn't work in outer space. The Joule Thomson.
Yes, it does. No, Joule Thomson doesn't.
You never played Asteroid?
There's no work being done. We can actually do this. There's videos
Joule
of this.
Thomson doesn't apply to rockets because a rocket is not a closed system. Joule Thomson by its nature, assumes a closed system. You are not working in a closed system there, so Joule-Thomson doesn't apply.
No, you're not
It's that
working in a
simple.
closed system if half of my rocket's hanging in the atmosphere and the other half is hanging in outer space. Right, you're right. But if we're all the way in outer space, then yes, we are working in an enclosed
No, you're not. It doesn't suddenly become a closed system by going into outer space.
Yes, it
It's
does.
still an
All of
open-
a sudden, it is all the way a vacuum all the way around your system. Yes, it is a vacuum
No.
completely around the mechanism that has the mechanics that we're talking about. There's a vacuum all the way around all
It
sides.
doesn't matter that there's a vacuum. It doesn't matter whether there's air or there's a vacuum. It's not a
It
closed
really does matter. That's the point. It
No,
really
it
does matter.
It does not
You can't
matter.
push anything off of anything without the other object having something to push off of.
Stop for a second.
Atmosphere, a wall, or another object. You have to.
Will
Like
you let
if
me
I was
respond
standing
here?
on top of another person and we jumped off of each other, yeah, we could thrust off of each other. If you
Okay,
were throwing bricks out of the vacuum, they were really.
Graham, listen to me. Listen to me. Listen. Listen.
Gas
Listen.
first. Once it's gas, it acts differently in a vacuum. This is what people are not paying attention to. When it's gas, it doesn't behave as regular matter in the vacuum.
It does.
You know,
It's
it does not.
It's just a different phase of
Not in
matter.
a vacuum, it does not.
Yeah,
That
it
is my
does.
point. You're not putting it together. The physics behind the vacuum principle. You're not. I'm sorry, dude.
Okay,
You're talking to a 40.
Okay, why don't you let him talk for a sec?
Okay, here we go. He's muted. Grim, go ahead, Dr. Astro.
Okay. What Grimm's trying to suggest is that when it turns into a vacuum, suddenly the physics of it changes. It doesn't, because it's still not a closed system. You've got literally an open rocket nozzle that is spewing matter out into space. It is losing mass. You're losing mass from the system of the rocket. Now, if you regard the entire universe as a closed system, he would be right in the sense that you're not moving the entire universe. That's the box. Okay, imagine a box now with two chambers. In one chamber you have gas, in another chamber you have a vacuum. You release the chamber containing the gas. It spews out into the chamber that contains the vacuum. It equalizes, and you have half the pressure you had before if they're two equally sized chambers, right?
If you're
It does
hanging
no
halfway-
work.
Yeah, you're talking about two chambers, which means we would have to be in outer space and in the atmosphere at the same time for your principle to take effect. It does not work that way.
No.
Yes.
No, listen.
Is it really that hard for you? I don't get this. Like, you know,
I don't know why it's so.
For the PSYOP that we were talking about on the people.
just take it, man. You're not the. Now I'm in the room. It's over. It's done. It's different. All right.
What?
Oh, a second. This is
Okay.
I know.
What is this guy implying here?
I'm mirroring back to what you're doing, man. Don't do that. Just go look it up to what I'm talking about. Let other people look it up. Don't just deflect it as if it's not nada. There are other people
by
here
all
who
means
might want
look
to
it
just
up.
look that up. Look, man. Look. If they respect both of us, then you're just totally shitting on this whole party. If they respect both of us, you know, let them respect both of us. Don't let them only just respect what
Yeah,
you
but
say,
you're
Doctor.
taking control of the
your name's Doctor
conversation.
something. I don't
Okay.
fucking know why.
I'd like to know what any of this has to do with flat Earth.
Okay, I'm not lying. All right.
It's-
Wow.
I said I don't. Yeah. Well, the thing is, what it has to do is people who are, arguing for the round Earth, like me, are having to listen to other people argue for the round Earth and make invalid arguments that make us look bad. And so it's almost like you're shilling on accident, like trying to be wrong, showing us NASA is real and shit,
No.
making everybody go against you because we know NASA is not real. I mean, not for
course
us,
not.
it's not.
What are you
We know
talking about?
NASA's not
Well,
telling
I
us.
thought we're talking about flat Earth, not NASA.
No, we're talking about
What?
getting to the bottom of the truth. It doesn't have to be flat or round, whichever the truth is. I'm not trying to be biased about it. I'm just trying to point out the physics of what I can see.
Okay, I'm just trying to explain why your analogy of the Thomson-Joule effect doesn't apply to a rocket in space the way that you think it does. It only applies in the sense of trying to consider space as the entire system of space, and you're trying to move it. Okay,
The
the
Joule-Thomson
Thomson-Joule effect is yes, that effect is about a box containing a gas in one chamber and no gas in the other chamber, but that doesn't apply to a rocket because you have a closed system there. You don't
a
have
box
a
with
closed
it.
system in-
What? You just called a vacuum a box. So you're trying to delete yeah, I know, but you're trying to delete the validity of my statements by using like silly words. It's a box. Yeah, a box that is a vacuum. Just like if you were in outer space, it would be a vacuum. That's your enclosed system, and outer space vacuum enclosed system. Not one side of your rocket ship has more vacuum on it than the other. It's all equal all the way around your rocket. That is your box.
Grim, let him. If you're gonna.
I'm stepping in here. I'm stepping in here.
gas.
This discussion is done with. We are not getting anywhere with this. We're not here to discuss the vacuum in space and all that. We're here to discuss the true shape of the Earth. So I ask you all to keep it on topic. If you want to debate this in another show, by all means. But we're not going to discuss this here right now. And please stick to the topics, folks.
Sorry, brother. I really thought that it was relative, that's all. Because it was part of the rationale that gets people thinking about this.
Okay, but we're going to leave. We're going to leave that.
What it is. But am I wrong? I thought maybe that's why we don't get along, because we all think differently like this.
Well, everybody thinks differently. I mean, that's what makes us, a better species. I mean, if everybody thought the same, then we wouldn't get anywhere, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, rationale, like.
Yeah. But we're here to talk about.
We have different views on that simple shit, you know.
Yeah. But I'm not here to talk about NASA. I'm not, we already talked about ISIS, the International Space Station. We've talked about a lot of that stuff already.
Well, you mentioned it, but I didn't hear any antithesis. And I have lots of that. I just want to point it out. You guys, if you want an exciting show, let somebody fucking give you some excitement.
Well, we'll have a debate.
I got some good shit to talk about.
We'll have a
debate. Like the thermosphere. Yeah, it's 200. It's 2,500 degrees Celsius, but you say aluminum is floating around there, and gold and plastic and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Satellites. And then you're going to tell me you have a lot of atoms in it, so it doesn't heat up. I know the science, trust me. And I'm going to tell you, well, what isn't the satellite made of atoms? Wouldn't the satellite get hot?
A lot more atoms.
Right, exactly.
Temperature and heat are two different things. You only have a certain amount of mass in space, a very low amount
up there.
All right. Well, and here's the thing. And this is what I would suggest. Dr. Astro puts forth is that you can see satellites yourself with a telescope in space. How do you explain that?
X-37 type vehicles. You can't see satellites. You see a dot. You're not seeing a window satellite. Let me see your satellites, bro, because I've been looking for a long time. Let me see your satellites. Let me see that that's not just a little white dot up in the sky on your telescope.
Okay, hang on. I'll post the link.
Thank you.
Here's the space shuttle dock to the space station. Somebody in the chat share that photo.
Press, can you do that for us, please?
Yeah. We can't copy and paste links in the chat. YouTube won't let us.
One in the chat.
It's in the Google Hangouts.
Oh, the Google. Okay, I thought you meant like the. Sorry.
We'll share this with our audience. I think that would be fascinating. In fact, people need to understand that the NASA is a hoax meme is part of this whole flat Earth meme. Yes, NASA does lie about some things, I'm sure, but NASA doesn't lie about everything. There are many, how many, hundreds of thousands, at least tens of thousands of amateur astronomers out there that have their own telescopes that are constantly looking at everything up in the night sky. And they work completely independent of any sort of government agency, and they are always second guessing everything that is up there. So I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt for providing serious information dealing with the ISS and satellites, of course, and everything else. I think it's ludicrous to suggest satellites don't exist. We've been using them like crazy. They're being sent up. There's tens of thousands of them up there, and you can look at them yourself, right, Dr. Astro?
Absolutely. And tell you what, I'm gonna share with you guys some other satellite photos. I did not take myself, but one of the world's best satellite trackers took some of these shots of the space station and space shuttle in orbit with incredible levels of detail. Just way better than mine because he's got a much larger telescope. And like I said earlier, resolution is all about size in astronomy. So there's a second link right underneath the link I just, so somebody could share that one too.
Yeah, I got it.
Now, was that picture that you were showing before there, that's one that you took of a satellite with the blue background?
The first one, the blue background, that's mine. Okay. That's the final shuttle mission.
So, Buddy in the Hat, what do you think that is? What is that?
Yeah, well, I don't know. It looks like a satellite.
He took that with his telescope. So what do you have to say about it?
First time I've ever seen that someone has done that.
So do you retract all of the comments that you made before that?
Well, it's still a picture. How can I say I can put validation on this picture from somebody? You know what I'm saying? It does look like it. I would suggest that it
I guess,
could be.
but I
I'm
think
not
that
saying-
really, I think that really goes into what we're talking about here. There's people
But I'm
like you
still
out
not
there who
arguing.
do not accept anything.
Yes,
I'm not saying I don't accept it. I'm not saying I don't accept it, but I'm not accepting it as it is. I'm saying now it can be looked into further from me. You know what I'm saying? I've already been looking into it. I've been looking for it this whole time. Why do you think I even asked him for it? It's not like you're acting like I'm this whole argument. I'm my own person. I have my
Until
own
you had to
thoughts.
get muted.
What?
Well, it's an outrageous claim for someone to say that satellites don't exist, and it's
Well, it's not so
disinformation.
outrageous in reality, though. It really isn't. As far as what we've been
But
given.
you know what it is? It's lazy, because you can get yourself a telescope. You could go to a place where you could use a telescope, and you can go and look at it yourself.
Lazy. You can't buy a fucking couple $1,000 telescope. That's lazy.
Well, it is, because you're going to make a
Come on,
claim.
bro. Not everybody's
You're
buying
gonna
that
claim
kind of-
that something doesn't exist without using the science that's available to verify it. You're just saying that.
Well, don't they have what do they call them? Star parties?
Star party. I was just gonna say, come to the Chieflands Fall Star Party this year. I will be more than happy to show you ISS or whatever other satellites you want to take a look at.
How do you know that's not a big ass balloon up there?
Because. That's fine.
How do you know, man? You're handing me a little picture right here, right now, and then starting to ridicule me about this. Like this picture is doing so much.
It's harder to see.
Not for me. I'm not you. Who held the telescope in my hand, so you know what I'm saying? If I was you and I held the telescope in my hand and did it for myself, that'd be a different story. That's the kind of being that I am. Okay, but see that I didn't do that. I can't just say, oh, now I have to feel the reward of knowing like you do. I don't feel the reward of knowing yet. That's all I'm saying. You ridicule me for that?
I'm offering you.
Man. I'm looking at a little tiny blue picture here that could be any kind of CGI bullshit. It could be your bullshit. For all I know, I don't know you.
Okay.
But listen, for real.
Going on
objectively. Don't look at this like a hypocrite. Look at it objectively.
Grim, I think that you'd be suitable on a different type show, because this is becoming far too combative. I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to ask you to leave because it's just totally deflecting from the whole conversation. I think you're a smart guy. You do a lot of good stuff. I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but we really don't want to have a huge debate over somebody who is.
I'm not gonna. I'm over that. I've got a lot more to add, but it's not about that. All right.
Okay. Well, you know what? If we do have a debate,
I thought it's obvious. Look, man. If people would just talk to me with respect, it would be reciprocated just as well, man. And you do see the first eye roll at me, the first thing, that kind of shit. People don't do that to you in real life. See, and I'm giving you my real persona. I don't give you a fake. Listen, I'm trying to talk, man. I'm not giving you a fake persona. I'm giving you who I really am. If I make a mistake, I say openly I made a mistake. But I mean, look at the ridicule and everything. Like, we got to do all of that. Come on.
Well, I mean, somebody raising their eyebrows is hardly a big deal. So I think you'll get over it, dude. But I think we're going to move on. So I would ask you.
Move on, man. You are moving on.
And we'll have when it's your show. I know how you're very animated and all that, and I think that's what people will expect on a show like that. So, total respect to you and all that. But I think we'd like to go on if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. I will mute myself. I just want to be on the show, be part of the show, dude. Occasionally, I might have something to say. I'm not trying to argue with anybody. Are you kicking me out of the fucking show?
Well, I don't want to kick you out of the show, but you're taking over.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate you not kicking me off the show. Let's keep going.
Yeah, but you're taking over the show, and we don't want you to take over.
I'm not trying to.
And so if it happens again, I will, okay? And it's no insult to you or anything else. It's just that this is the way I run a show, and this doesn't happen on We'll Do It Live. We are here to discuss what's going on. Dr. Astro has been doing this for decades. I have seen his work. That's why I brought him on the show. You can go and watch his videos. Dr. Astro, if I'm not mistaken, you actually do live shows, right, where you take people with your telescope and you're showing whatever you're looking at, if it's satellites or it's stars or whatever. You're doing that all the time, right?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I'm hoping if the weather's clear, of course it's always weather dependent, but if the weather's clear, I'm going to be trying to track a Planet X claim this weekend, as a matter of fact, from a guy who's gaining popularity in the alternative media scene. He was just on John B. Wells' program last week. I think his name's Gil Broussard or something along those lines. He's published an orbit for claimed Planet X. I'm going to take a look. I'm going to point my telescope at the position that orbit predicts and scan, in fact, several years of time. So even if it were going to show up years from now, where it would be, and we're just going to see what's there. And that's all going to be done live right here on YouTube. So that'll be on my channel, Astronomy Live, and everyone can feel free to check it out. And again, Grim, I welcome you to come to a star party like the one I go to, the big star party, Chiefland Fall Star Party, and I'll show it to you in person. You can see ISS in the eyepiece, in the glass, not even in a camera. So, you know,
I totally appreciate that. That's what I've been waiting for, man. I just want answers, you know, not arguments.
Awesome. See, and that's great. I mean, as I said before in the intro, Dr. Astro he's a voice of reason when it comes to this stuff. What he does is he often spends a lot of time debunking all these crazy claims, and where I got to know him is dealing with Comet Ison. I think he and I were two of the few people out there, and I'm no astronomer, but just telling you that Comet Ison was not going to hit Earth. There was going to be no effects whatsoever, and he did tremendous presentations. I don't know how much effort he put into trying to calm the fears that all, I mean, and there were people that were pushing that, you know, people like BP Earthwatch that were pushing Dabu 7 that it was going to destroy the planet, or, you know, it was the Hopi prophecy, all this stuff. So I really appreciate Dr. Astro for, you know, volunteering his time to do that type of work, because it really brings some credibility and some sensibility to all the madness that is out there. And I think that's what's going on with this whole flat Earth thing. It's exactly why I brought him in, because we need people that are astronomers to come on and discuss this. We can't just be all a bunch of guys talking right out of our rear ends and you know, not knowing the science, not spending the years and years to learn everything about our solar system and stuff like that. And that's what I urge all our listeners that are listening right now. You know, there are so many PSYOPs that are going on, but one of the biggest ones, and I keep mentioning it throughout the show, but it can't be emphasized enough, is to make you think that everything is fake. Now, if you want to believe that ISIS is fake and that the women on ISIS are perming their hair and all this shit, well, then get yourself a telescope or go to one of these star parties and go and look through a telescope your very self, and you'll see it up there in the sky. And then maybe you'll have a different perspective of what is really going on, because they really, the powers that be that are out there, I think in many ways they want to keep you in a state of learned helplessness, of fear, right, of constant not knowing anything and not believing anything. It works to their benefit to keep you that way. That's why Alex Jones is a total fraud. Alex Jones, I've proven over and over again, has lied. I don't know how many times about, you know, recently a ISIS base in Mexico and stuff like that, which they just drop as soon as it's exposed that they're completely lying about it. Yeah.
Yeah, we agree on so many things down the line too. I think it's awesome. I wanted to ask Doctor, because this is still not the same shit, but is it possible that there's like a little air above the reach of gravity still, you know, that's still up there that gives them some push? You know what I'm saying? With their thrust.
It's true that space is not a perfect vacuum. There's really no such thing as a perfect vacuum. But that's not where the thrust is ever coming from. It's simply that you're throwing mass out the back. If you were in space and let's say that your MMU, your man maneuvering units, run out of jet fuel and you have to get back to the space shuttle, you've got one shot. You could take your backpack, your MMU, throw it opposite the direction you want to go, and you're going to go in the opposite direction. It's a simple action-reaction. It's basically
I understand the matter. Yeah, never mind. It gets back into that again. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I wasn't trying to go back around, man. I really wasn't. I was trying to work it out a little bit.
Anybody else here wanted to say anything else? Justin or Rob or Chrissy?
Yeah, Jeff. I just wanted to add a comment in there before. That I believe as you say, the powers that be are actually trying to divide the truth movement and pit us against each other.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, they want us as far, like this is a perfect example with the flat Earth theory. They want us as far away from connecting with other people as possible. and that includes within our movement, right? So, like we were saying before, we touched on it before. If there's one thing that people are just going to roll their eyes at immediately, like from the quote-unquote sheeple, whatever you want to call it, right? It's if you talk about a flat Earth, it's the first thing. Now listen, there are many things out there that could be much stranger than fiction. Flat Earth aside, round Earth, okay? But they're going to try and confuse you with all of this kind of stuff. And as you go further down the rabbit hole and you don't use logic to look at things and you don't look at yourself as you're looking at it, they're going to make sure that you're as far away from social connection as possible. And that means that as an individual, as a group, they're going to make you look like all flat earthers. When I speak to people from, I speak to internationals, okay, like every day. Especially like 6 months ago, I would speak to a bunch of people from Australia, okay, and there would be conspiracy theory that would be brought up. The question that gets asked here in America is, oh, you must be a follower of Alex Jones, hey? Over there, what their question is, oh, you must believe in the flat Earth. You must believe that the moon is a projection. Those are the two things that they say, okay? So why is that? Why is that?
Dave Johnson?
Maybe we don't understand it yet. But I think it's coming on us. I think that this is an orchestrated thing, and you know,
I've watched it happen. I watched it happen with TransAsia. I watched an event that had every element of proof that a plane actually crashed, and no elements, not one even hint of a whisper of anything faked. It was the most videotaped thing. They had 12 hours of footage, which I sat through, of the rescue, and yet no matter what we did, the other side came and presented everything as being fake, and it was just unbelievable. And so I'm seeing the same people, the same channels, by and large, not fully, but by and large, the same people pushing the same thing with flat Earth now. And a lot of them also pushed that the Nepal earthquake was a hoax as well, which is just astounding to me. You could fake a massive earthquake that happened in several countries and one of the largest.
You know, Jeff, this also weeds out or brings out what they call the troublemakers, because your troublemakers would be critical thinkers. These people are looking for the demographic who will believe anything as long as they tell the story right. And
Exactly.
this story is being told right, so that the people who can be duped because they lack scientific understanding of the world around them or whatever, but whoever will go along with a good story with no evidence, that's the demographic they're looking for. And then you're going to have people that are going to stand up and say, I don't think so. In fact, I know better. And that is the troublemakers, the critical thinkers. And this is a way of weeding them out of the crowd. So
yeah, I see what you're saying. That's a great point, and it's a good division tactic as well. Because if you think about, okay, we'll take Jeff and Red Pill for example. Okay, they're doing great work on stuff like ISIS and Sandy Hook and Santa Barbara and stuff, okay? Important issues. And then these little trivial things are thrown in, like the flat Earth or the plane crash. These things don't matter, but what did it do? It drove a wedge between people who were working together and doing great work to the point where they can't do that anymore because of a trivial issue for that part. So it's a great tactic, whoever's employing it.
Absolutely. It's been going on, and I've witnessed it, and I've seen the ugliness of it, and have been a victim of it. And I'm telling you, people, you cannot fall into these traps. You have to really question everything that you come across. That means questioning me. It means questioning anybody that you follow. I might be right on one event. I might get another event wrong. The difference with me is I will always come back and take down my videos, offer an apology anytime. I've done this 20, 30 times, more than that maybe, with videos. You know, if I've got an event wrong, if I said this event looks like it could be a hoax or a staged thing, a staged shooting or something like that, and then I get enough proof and I realize, well, wait a second, no, it looks like it's real. And you know what? The meme is out there to make everybody think that everything's fake, just like what we're dealing with the space thing. NASA, well, everything that comes out of NASA is a lie. right? And I've seen this just proliferate everywhere. It's just exploding, so it comes automatic. People say it automatically. It's NASA, it's fake. NASA, it's fake. NASA, it's fake. That is not true. You're not doing any work when you're doing that. You're just automatically repeating what others are telling you. And some of those others that are telling you this are people that are assigned in order to make you think that way, to take you off any sort of reality and put you on a train of complete confusion, right, and infighting and everything else. And we have to really guard ourselves against this. We really have to be able to accurately, interpret what's going on, not, resort to pseudoscience or total black magic or witchcraft or whatever. I mean, we have to be able to take these events. So this flat Earth thing, I have been watching. Some of the people that are here know that I've been watching it for since it really began. I've seen it. I've been wanting to talk about it for a long time. I was waiting for the right moment. That's why I organized this whole discussion, because it really has reached that point. And Chad wrote out read out the numbers dealing with just YouTube and the videos that are going up. I can tell you there are hundreds, if not thousands, of posts a day on Google+. I can't imagine what's on Facebook because I don't do Facebook. But I saw this thing just explode. I saw it go from 5-6 posts a day to 100. And videos going up everywhere, and all the connections of the people involved. People have never broken down anything, never been involved in breaking down PSYOPs like, say, Sandy Hook or Boston or Ebola or anything like that. All of a sudden, they're the experts, and all of a sudden, everything is fake, and the notion that 95 or 97% of news is fake and scripted, and we're being lied to about everything, and there is no such thing as problem, reaction, solution. It's much deeper than that. They're not doing these things to bring in these laws. It's a much deeper mindfuck, right? And we show, when we break down an event, like, for instance, the Ottawa shooting a hoax, we show why they do this. We show the problem, reaction, solution. We show all the bills, like Bill C-45 or Bill C-36 or Bill, what's the one there, Rob? Bill C-42 now? That's on
51.
51, I mean, right? We show the reasons. There's a reason why they're doing these things. There's a reason why they're carrying out. We show all the evidence to support why it's a hoax, why, the 9 bullet holes, the police vehicles that were on the hill of the Parliament before the shooting took place, right? We try to give you smoking guns to show you why. We're not trying to scare you. We don't want you to think everything's fake. Most things aren't fake. Most of the stories coming off the news are just stories coming off the news. Now, if they're faking the whole, yes, I believe the Caitlyn Jenner thing is a giant psyop. I believe that a whole New World Order sort of transgender agenda is something that they're trying to push, and it's something that really disturbing and all that. But we have to realize not everything is fake. You got to get out of that mentality, because that's a trap. That's a trap that they want to bait you into. So when you're in that trap, you're powerless. All you're thinking is everything's fake. So you're not going to try to do anything. You're not going to go out and stand and try to stop, say, Bill C-42, the Canadian New Terror Law from passing, because you think, well, that's probably fake too, right? I mean, and then the reality is these things like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, all these things that they're bringing in, you're not paying attention to them because you're too busy going on about NASA's being fake, everything's fake, the moon is made of cheese, the Earth is flat, right? I mean, the sun is a giant fucking flashlight, right? And you are lost. You're not anywhere.
Well, that's why people also
need the opposite spectrum of the universe dealing with truth. You're in an upside down, inside out, fucking backwards world, and you got to break that paradigm, because that's the paradigm that they want you in.
People also need to keep in mind that it's not, there's more than just, fake and real. There's stuff in between that too. It's not just, something like, Francie said, they said something about some of the stories of the news are real, but yeah, they can be real, but the news can also play them up. They can add that element of fakeness or lying to it, and it can still have an element of realness to it as well.
Oh, they always embellish these stories.
100%. They'll use
I want to hit home how much people want when we're going to be stinging at a beehive, like hitting the CBC, hitting these psyops, these hoaxes, stuff like that. There's going to be people that want to go against you, and they feel justified in doing so. I want to read you one example. Okay, we were talking about Jesuits before. This is their oath of induction. Now, I'm not proving this to be a Jesuit document. There's many things that state it is. There's many things that state it isn't. But this will take you inside the mind of someone who thinks they're justified in hurting somebody that's against them. It's called the mind of a psychopath, right? Anyways, a superior says to someone as they're taking an oath, "My son, heretofore you have been taught to act the dissembler, to dissemble among Roman Catholics, to be a Roman Catholic, and a spy, even among your own brethren, to believe no man, to trust no man, among the reformers to be a reformer, a Huguenot to be a Huguenot, a Calvinist to be a Calvinist, a Protestant to be a Protestant, and obtaining their confidence, to seek even to preach from their pulpits." It doesn't have to be talking about church, guys. "And to denounce with all the vehemence in your nature our holy religion and the Pope, and even to descend so low as to become a Jew among Jews, so that you might be enabled to gather together all information for benefit of your order as a faithful soldier of the Pope." It all comes back to a greater ends. I'll just read one more paragraph. "You have been taught to insidiously plant this..."
Yeah, that's quite something, eh? And that is a sort of the philosophy or a tactic that's been used for how long, Justin? I think we lost him. The Jesuits, right? They really understand this whole mind control and manipulation game that is occurring. I mean, a lot of it comes directly from their handbooks, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Well, you'll believe when you burn in hell for all eternity. We'll see how you feel then. Get off on saying that to somebody.
Right.
Like, what kind of a person are you?
That's it. I mean, we're dealing with this. We have infiltrators. We have all kinds of. I mean, this has been going on for years. I mean, it's there's nothing new. The 9/11 Truth Movement was infiltrated from day one. I mean, who knows how many people have been planted in that movement in order to just keep people chasing their own tails and arguing over, whether it's controlled, controlled demolition or energy weapons or nuclear weapons or whatever.
Social experiment.
Yeah, nobody died. People died. Like no planes. They're planes. I mean, people can argue for the end of time, and that's part of the whole PSYOP. Because instead of actually trying to do something and wake up people to the deception, we're just arguing with other people who a lot of them aren't even truthers. They're just agents that are there to piss in the whole punch bowl sort of thing. And
oh, sorry about that, brother. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Where was I? I just want to finish that part off because this is very important to remember. So I guess I'll coming back to the means. You have been taught to insidiously plant the seeds of jealousy and hatred between communities, provinces, states that were at peace, and incite them to deeds of blood, involving them in war with each other, and to create revolutions and civil wars in countries that were independent and prosperous, cultivating the arts and the sciences and enjoying the blessings of peace, to take sides with the combatants, and to act secretly like a shill with your brother Jesuit, who might be engaged on the other side, but openly opposed to that with which you might be connected. Okay, so they'll even go against themselves as well. Only that the church might be gainer in the end in the conditions fixed in the treaties for peace, and that the end justifies the means. That
now you know what that implies, right?
You find that in any religion, whether that is true or not. This thing, whether this is real for a Jesuit or whatever, this is how they think. And when you start rattling nests like that, this is how they start thinking towards you. They don't care about you. They want you down so that they can prosper and continue to do so. Sorry to take up so much time.
It's a divide and conquer strategy.
And it's also a controlled opposition situation that implies that they would also pretend to be a this and pretend to be a that.
They must
a
be
Jew,
this
a
and
Muslim.
They must
pretend
be
to be whatever. It doesn't matter what religion they are. They're just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be religion, and for them it isn't. It's everything, and it doesn't have to be just them either.
I know, but I mean, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
So it's all sorts of factions, you know. It's through, but I was just pointing out one that was easier. People had more hard evidence on right now, you know. But yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and I wanted to point out a thought that I was having, and maybe get some of your input on it, Jeff. There's I'm having this idea that we're already all centrally run through proxies, okay? And this it's not that they're hoaxes, because this is real events and shit that are going on, but the reason there are some hoaxes in the US and things that are being like obviously, you know, like the public is obviously starting to notice. It's not that I don't think it's because like all of a sudden the public is just getting so much smarter. I really don't. If you go outside and look around, we only see smarter people like here collecting together and stuff usually.
Yeah.
I mean, in those aspects. But what I'm saying is, it's the Committee of 300 in my mind that already own all of these countries, and they run it through for the real elites who go on unnamed. I'm just saying, I don't want to get too far away from this.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that a lot of these things are because they want to get rid of the U.S. It's like, you know, the pharaohs that never fell, or Rome that never fell, and now, you know, the U.S., you know, Babylon, the U.S., it's not really falling. It's the owners of it are just letting it go under the bus. They're doing it on purpose.
Rome has never failed. Rome has never failed.
Exactly my point.
Just for the record.
Well, that's exactly my point. My point is they just like you know, the Magna Carta. It's always just in the public eye to like smack the leader down a little bit, and then keep the same rule though, and keep the same control vices, and keep everything the same, but he just repents a little. You know,
and just shift the period, like, and make it look a little different. Keep everything.
Yeah, our leaders are far from the top of the pyramid. They're there as servants.
Exactly.
All of them have dirt on them, so they can't spill the beans and stuff like that. That's how the control system works. We see it at even smaller levels, whether we're dealing with local politicians and councilors and stuff like that. But yeah, that works right up the chain, and that's the perfect method of control. So yeah, it's definitely happening. What are they trying to do, the United States? Well, they want a global. I mean, that to me is the real objective. Is to have a sort of global form of government.
Babysitter, babysit. The bad U.S. needs a babysitter. Even we can agree. See, but they're rationaling us. They're getting our rationale to accept, conditionings to accept that we need a babysitter because it's out of control here, and that maybe it's a good idea that the UN comes in and takes over, instead of maybe we should eliminate all these victimless crimes off the books. Maybe we should stop paying the crown for the 21 loans taken out from the Revolutionary War, and disestablish the IRS, you know, disassemble it, and create a voluntary tax system. You know, maybe we can do a lot more transparent things here for our government and ourselves in a way that, when I say government, I mean reconstructing the damn term of what the word means altogether, basically, because it's no more mind steering. It's us steering ourselves, whatever Ubuntu thought we can come up with that. You know what I mean? You know, what isn't good for you isn't good for me sort of philosophy. You know, I'm not saying communism, but I'm saying like put a cap on some of these businesses. You know, you don't need 50 million employees, and then all of a sudden you're running another country.
The governments have long since been surpassed by the mega corporations, the mega banks that are out there. They're far more powerful.
They were set up in order to make that excuse, because it was already the government's. That was the already.
Yeah, like, it was the government's choice also to give that power up.
Of course, because
that story's been told over and over and over again.
You see it in places like here in Quebec, where they bend over backwards to give billions to corporations like Bombardier, who get up and move, 10 years later. So, corporations run the planet. That's my belief. It's always been my belief. The banks run the planet, sort of thing. Now, the governments still have their pentagons and stuff like that. They still control, nuclear weapons and whatever. But when it comes down to it, who populates those governments? Well, it's the corporations that stick those people in the White House, for instance.
Corporations are the mechanisms that rule the planet for a society of people.
Yes. Yeah. Elite are above that grid as well.
Those corporations.
Well, put it as like massive financial and criminal sock puppets. In a way.
Well, it's proxy. That's why I like the word proxy, because it's It's easy for a lot
It's
of
fair.
youngsters to catch on to because they understand proxy, through the internet and stuff. So I try to make sure everybody.
Oh,
can
we're
get
just
some
too
of
old.
this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I try to reach us all. Reach our inner child
For
too.
sure.
Okay, I'm back.
So what do we have going on, guys?
I wanted to just.
I think Jeff was feeding a cookie.
Yeah, we've got the dog. He's outside and he's barking. It's past midnight here. I had to run
Oh, we
out.
gotta
For a
check
second.
that.
But I just wanted to give everyone a last chance to go at this flat Earth thing. This is what the whole discussion really was about. If there's anything in closing as we close out this topic that people would like to say with regards to it, any sort of message that they want to give to people out there. I'd like to give you all of you guys a chance to make a sort of closing statement dealing with the flat Earth. So I don't know who wants to go first. Any volunteers?
I'd love to. Thank you.
Go right ahead. Take your time.
I've been waiting for you to do that all night. I really didn't really want to. I just wanted to do that mostly. But no, seriously. Well, here's it is. When I take a look outside, and I used to have a telescope when I was a kid, and I would look at Saturn and see that I could obviously see there's a ring around Saturn, and it's round, and then you could see that, and then you take a look at Jupiter and see that those storms move every night. So that's going around and then coming back around. It's not just facing us, so it's going around something. So, unless it's a quarter and shit's going around it that way, I don't see it being flat. And if none of the other shit's around me is flat, then why would I suspect that I would be? I'm just wondering. And if I make a bubble and there's even pressure on all sides, why is it round and not flat if we're in a bubble of even pressure on all sides around us? I'm just wondering. So that's my argument, just for the easy way out. And I'll leave it alone.
Awesome. Who wants to go next?
I've got one little video here. One more point to make. Somebody mentioned circumpolar stars, and there's another great point that I think might have got neglected a little bit. So, if you look at stars close to the North Celestial Pole or close to the South Celestial Pole, which is simply the North Pole projected out onto the sky or the South Pole projected onto the sky, you can find stars that never set. Here in the northern hemisphere, so if I'm here in Florida, right? I'm at about say 28 degrees north. So within 28 degrees of the North Pole, North Celestial Pole, stars will never set. They just trace a circle around the North Star, right? The North Star itself moves a little bit because it's not exactly on the North Celestial Pole, but that's kind of beside the point. The main point is that stars in the southern hemisphere, if you look at stars towards the South Celestial Pole, you're dealing with a completely different set of circumpolar stars than you are in the northern hemisphere. You won't find the North Star in the southern hemisphere. You won't find any of the other stars that are supposed to be around the North Star in the southern hemisphere. So all those circumpolar stars are going around the other way, around a different pole. So how does that work in a flat Earth? If you're just on a disk heading out towards the edges, that's not what you should see. You should still see the stars turning the same way around the same singular axis, but that's not what we see here. So here's a video showing the circumpolar stars from Antarctica in the southern hemisphere, and you can see there's no North Star there, and it's a completely different set of stars that you're looking at spinning around and around. That's not what you should see on a flat Earth.
Exactly. It's pretty much case closed just with that alone.
Yep.
Which again makes me wonder if there clearly are this volume of materials being uploaded to YouTube making these claims based on the evidence that we've discussed here tonight. Either my only conclusion is that either this is something that's getting a push for whatever reason, or if it is true that all of these 180,000 people who've uploaded videos truly think the world is flat and this is just the condition that we're in, I think that's even worse.
Yeah. I think it's the former rather than the latter, but
right. At least I can understand the former, right?
That's right. Dr. Astro, is there anything else you'd like to add before closing?
No, I think that's about all for me for tonight. I'm pretty exhausted, to be quite honest. It's after midnight here for me as well, so
Well,
I think.
Wanted to thank you very much for coming on. You were excellent. We really benefited from all your experience and stuff. So thank you so much, and we'd love to have you again if you'd ever be interested in talking more about this kind of stuff.
Sure. Thanks for having me on and inviting me. I was quite shocked at the invitation, but happy to be here.
Awesome. So who'd like to go next here?
I just wanted to say that. Well, first of all, I wanted to say that it was very informative. So I'm glad you were here as a guest tonight. And as far as this whole flat Earth PSYOP goes, I mean, logic and science and physics dictates it's complete bullshit, of course. So, I mean, there's no even fucking disputing it. You know.
Well said, Rob. Chad or Justin or Chrissy or Olin.
Chad, go ahead, man.
Other than the fact that what I said kind of earlier is pretty much my closing, that I think it's a scarier situation if this is just where we're really at, and people, the mindset of the masses is just really here. One thing I would suggest is anyone who is maybe genuinely confused because of the clever story that they're being told, there's many ways you can verify this for themselves, and I just truly suggest you call a commercial airline pilot and have someone who does this for a living explain to you how they're doing it, and you'll truly understand it. In fact, I've put that challenge out because a lot of the times the flat earthers are debating one of us globalists, one of us people who have this belief that the globe is. I would like them to debate an expert in the field of whatever, whether it be a pilot. I'm so grateful to have the panel that we've had tonight with the doctor on, because we need that kind of mind that knows for themselves based on their own experiences. And again, by speaking with a pilot, you quickly learn that the model we're using of Earth is extremely accurate.
Exactly. Very well said. Who wants to go next, Olin or Justin?
Yeah, well, I'll just say, because I do have to go, I will say thanks to everyone for being on. Thanks to Jeff for having me on here. With the flat Earth, I mean, to me, it's really not a big deal. I could give a shit what shape the Earth is, but the most troubling aspect to me is the amount of people feeding into this, the amount of people who are getting their information from random people on YouTube or whatever it is. You need to look into this stuff for yourself. You need to. I guess we always tell people to think about things, but really you need to research things. Thinking about, if you watch a flat Earth video and you sit there and think about all the points that you just saw, you're not really researching it. You always have to look at the other side of things, compare what you had. And to speak one more time on science, I can see that a lot of people aren't trusting science, and science is the only thing on Earth that demands complete evidence for what it's presenting to be true. And I think people really need to think about that. Scientists pride themselves on their theories because they get proven right from so many different parts of the spectrum. And it's nothing that should be distrusted. It's something that everyone can look into. Any proven theory or supported theory can be looked into by anyone, and they'll get the same result. So I'll just finish with that, and I'll thank you again for having me on.
It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Chrissy or Rob? Oh, no, Rob already went. Chrissy or Justin?
Oh, I don't know. I don't have much to say. Have a good night. Good show. Terrible chat, but whatever. It's about that's how I know it. Not terrible. There's a few good people in there. A lot of dipshits. But what do you expect?
Yeah, that's
okay.
That word got out to the Flat Earth Society, so.
Yeah. I don't know. I had my fun, and I think they had their fun, and I'll see them next week, I'm sure.
You know what? We got a lot of haters, but they always tune in. Can't resist. Okay, Justin.
Guys, I don't know about you, but I've had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucker. I've had it. Dude. You can't listen, like, I mean, I know a lot of these people are genuinely confused, but there's a lot of these people that aren't, okay? And these are the dishonest intellects, okay?
Exactly.
And you can't speak into intellect or intellectual conversation with someone that is a dishonest intellect, because they're not looking to prove their statement right. Okay, they're looking to create any type of confusion in the person who is watching, the audience's mind. They might want to try and convince you as well. Chances are they're not gonna, because if you have a background on questioning what you believe and then questioning what others believe, you're looking at logic, you're going to be able to see through this right away. They're looking for the confused people. They're looking for the vulnerable. This is what cults do. Okay? And it doesn't have to be religious. I was talking about religion today, but it's all the same thing. It's all about mind control. And they want to shift your mind to believe things that are completely outside of reality. That's how sickening this is. I'm not talking about the person who believes it, who just thinks that this is something that they've stumbled upon. This is not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people who have orchestrated this, and the people who are following this along knowing that what they are doing, they don't believe in. They know they don't believe it.
Yeah.
Now go see these people after this show. Now, I haven't said too much in this show, but just go see these people that you've been hearing that have had their issues with the flat earth and see what they say after this. Do they address the topics, or are they going to try and spin things their way? Are they going to try and spin things to be personalities?
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about that.
Excellent, excellent. Well, in my final statement, look, one of the themes that I wanted to get across tonight is I believe that one of the big PSYOPs is to make you not believe anything, and I think that's the worst, because then you have no foundation in life. You have nothing to hold you down. I mean, if you're on a flat planet, you don't believe in anything. You throw out all the science, you know, and that means throwing out everything. I mean, if you honestly believe that, then gravity doesn't exist. Forget about Newton. Forget about Einstein. Forget about you know, all the great minds and all the great books and all the great universities and all the people that have ever contributed to anything to advance our civilization, to the point now that you have, you know, you could be listening to this on your watch. You know, I mean, literally, right? You have watches now that have computers that are, you know, 1,000 times more powerful than, say, a computer from 5-10 years ago. We are surrounded by science, and sometimes that science is used to manipulate us. That's for sure. Television does manipulate us. The corporate media does lie to us, does manipulate things. They do a lot of nasty things. But when it comes to the solar system, you can do this stuff on your own. You can become an amateur astronomer. You know, you can go out and buy a telescope, invest, and start looking at things yourself. Try to find the International Space Station. Look at the moon. Look at the shadows on the moon. Right? Look at all the planets. Look at the planets orbiting, you know, the elliptical orbits of the planets. Spend time. Invest the time. Don't just watch a bunch of people on YouTube that are putting out stuff that make you think that everything's fake. You're falling into a false paradigm, a trap. And this is where you're throwing out logic, you're throwing out reason, you're throwing out science. You're throwing out everything that got, you know, civilization to the point where it is now. And we can't afford to do that. We're not ever going to be successful as a movement if we start screaming that everything is fake. That is not a way to ever approach things. So I really am very satisfied with this podcast. Everybody that came on gave an unbelievable performance. I think we hit everything that we needed to hit. There's a lot of people that worked to thumbs down this video. I know that there was a lot of bad people or people in the chat that were causing trouble. Don't let that dissuade you. You have an open, free mind. Unless you're a shill, you're here, you're a living, thinking human being. Don't allow yourself to become a fool, right? Don't allow yourself to be fooled by the conjurers. And the conjurers really represent the powers that be, because they want you to look at one hand while the other hand is pulling a trick. They don't want you to be focused on the things that they're trying to pass through, like the Trans-Pacific Partnership, right, or these bills like Bill C-42 here in Canada. They don't want you to pay attention to that. They want you to focus on things that aren't even real. That's why the Kardashians are all over the media all the time. There's nothing important about them. There's nothing that you should ever concern yourself with. But that's all over the media every single day. And that's the whole problem. We're in a battle for information, but yet we have the internet. We have the ability that no other, previous civilization ever had. A channel like mine or the people here tonight, I mean, we have the ability to reach thousands of people around the world at any given moment. This is an amazing gift. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's unprecedented. Don't let it be taken over by disinfo agents and fear porn profiteers. Don't allow yourself to be put into a position or a mentality of fear and learned helplessness and cognitive dissonance or anything like that. You have to break free of that. You have to learn to think yourself, but you also have to learn every day. You don't know it all. I don't know it all. Nobody knows it all. But if you work hard on whatever's being presented and you do the work and you do the research, you're going to be a smarter person and you're going to be a lot closer to the truth. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Understand that that's what they want you to do. They want you to think that you can't trust anyone or anything. And they're doing everything they can to try to stop legitimate truthers, like the people on this panel, from having a legitimate voice, from having a following. They want to convince you that we're the bad guys and that we're here protecting the establishment when it couldn't be further from the truth. So that's what I wanted to say. Get that message out to everybody out there. To all you that believe the Earth is flat and genuinely believe it, you're not an enemy at all. We just disagree, and we have the evidence to disprove that. So I suggest that you either do a lot more research into it, and come to your own conclusions. And to the shills that are out there to cause trouble, well, you guys will get the karma that you deserve. And with that, I say thank you to everyone, especially everyone here on the panel. You guys were all fantastic. And thanks to most of the people, or at least half the people in the chat, the ones that weren't causing trouble and that were actually here to listen and partake in the discussion.
So now we now have a count of 155 sock puppets. Was that the dislikes on the...
Yeah, well,
it's an impressive number, I gotta say. They must have...
We don't want to turn them into enemies. Just let them catch on later, warm up to us. It takes a while.
Every
Everyone
show
has
has multiple accounts, so it's not
Oh,
hard.
you might be right. Yeah, I won't pay attention.
Don't take that number literally, folks.
Yeah, just to clarify, I wasn't saying every one of those dislikes were like shills or anything like that. I don't mean it like that. But shills do tend to have like 10 accounts.
No, you're right.
The 10 dislike dragon.
Sometimes I totally forget. It's like stuff that you don't think about people doing that much. I kind of forgot for a second. Yeah, it's possible. They always.
Exactly. Well, thank you, everyone. It's been a wonderful evening. I couldn't be more satisfied with the discussion that we had tonight. I think we hit it out of the park, despite what the ratings say.
Are we ending the show, or are we going on to another topic?
We're ending the show. We could have a after discussion. Whoever is still up and willing to take part. But yes, the show is going to end here. And sorry, Rob, it's 12:37 here, so it's.
I just want to talk to Doc after the show.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening, and I wish you all the very best. And we'll see you next week. Say goodbye, folks.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
All right.